10th grade can be a bust, but going on a full-out lockdown can't be compared to all the other stuff you might face, especially the lockdown that I was in a few years ago. On that one Wednesday afternoon during English class, the loudspeakers came on, and the vice principal's panicked voice flooded the room. Lockdown, 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 lockdown. Usually we can tell if a lockdown is a real deal because, in a drill, the vice principal or the principal says lockdown 3 times. But when a lockdown is real, and when someone dangerous and armed is in the building, the vice principal says lockdown 4 times. The lockdown was going smoothly at first until we realized something. A girl, Linda, was in the washroom, and she hadn't been back for 10 minutes since the lockdown had started. Our 7-foot-tall, 300-pound English teacher bravely volunteered to go check if everything was okay. Honestly, I don't think a bullet could even pierce his skin enough to reach his vital organs. When the teacher hadn't returned in 20 minutes, we started to panic. What the hell is going on? They should be back, one kid said. They're probably dead. What? When is this gonna be over? Everybody shut up. We wait 10 minutes until Mr. Johnson comes back, and if they don't come back, we heard a scream in the hallway, a female voice. One of my best friends, nicknamed Blame, pulled me aside from the chaos. Blame was allegedly one of the more unsavory characters in the school. He always carried a switchblade on him just in case. Crap, man, what's going on? Blame asked. I replied, I don't know. What the heck? Isn't Mr. Johnson coming back? Somebody's outside, and by the looks of it, they're armed. Another scream echoed into the hallway. Linda ran down the hallway, like that cliché girl in every slasher film, and she started banging on the door. Let me in! Let me in! She screamed. Yo girl, calm down, Blame said. Calm down? Stop messing around. What's going on? I asked. Let me in. Something's chasing me. This isn't funny, Linda, Dan said. Dan slowly removed the barricade and unlocked the door, and he stepped out. Through the window in the door, I could see him asking Linda a question when something that we couldn't see had tripped her and dragged her away, screaming. Oh God, Dan screamed. He desperately tried to run back to the door, but the thing that we couldn't see grabbed him and started dragging him along the floor. He kicked and screamed and punched, but whatever had gotten a hold of him was stronger. The 2 freshmen were dragged to the other hallway, where we couldn't see them anymore. The screams eventually cut off. I rushed to the door, locking it, and I covered the window. What the heck is going on? Blame screamed. I'm not paid enough for this shit, I said. All the kids began to panic and arguments ensued. 3 kids, also associated with Dan, wanted to go out and try to look for him. I tried to argue, saying that it was too dangerous. I almost feel bad for what happened to them. Ryan, one of them, yelled, So you're just going to sit here instead of looking for my man? Hey, I don't know if you numbskulls can process thoughts anymore, but did you see what took him? That's no shooter. Hell, it might not even be human, and you want to get out and look for a dead man. Ryan stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. What did you say to me? Blame stepped between us and glared at Ryan. Hey, back off. He's cool, he's cool. You keep that up and I'm gonna make you wish that you were never born. Ryan looked like he had an idea. You, give me that switchblade that you always carry. In case you didn't know, even on school grounds, Blame always carried a switchblade in his pocket in case, as he said, shit went down. Hell nah, you get your own. I decided that I'd had enough of this. You know what? Ryan, if you want to go outside and look for your dead friend, then be my guest. Nobody's stopping you. Go out and die. Just know that I warned you." Ryan looked hesitant. "Fine, let's go." He looked at the silent group of sophomores, at his friends. When they didn't come, Ryan screamed, "Let's go, you babies." And they went outside into the dark hallways. I watched as Ryan and the others went, in the hallway where I couldn't see them anymore, which was also the spot that Dan and Linda had disappeared. I heard their footsteps abruptly stop. I heard one of them yell, "What is that thing?" followed by a very deep and aggressive growling, and the sound of something heavy standing up. "Let's get out of here," Ryan screamed. All the screaming and sounds abruptly cut off, like somebody had turned the mute button on. And then I heard deep and loud footsteps, and the sound of something large being dragged down the hallway, heading away from us. My stomach twisted. I knew this was going to happen. Everyone started to panic. A few of the younger kids started to cry, and some kids even made attempts at calling 911, which wasn't working. "What was that thing?" I stood up. "Yeah, they're probably dead and gone, and nothing's going to change that. Now we have 20. Sorry, I'm not too good at subtraction. Yeah, that's right. We have 20 good people left. We need to, at all costs, avoid panicking because that'll..." "Hey, who put you in charge?" One kid had piped up. "I did," Blame said. "Now shut up and listen." "Thanks, man," I said to Blame. "Anytime, player." "Now, does anybody have any weapons that we could use?" I asked. 7 kids, including me, raised their hands. Of course. Half the class were a part of Blame's group. In the end, we had gathered 10 weapons from all of the students, mostly switchblades, Swiss Army knives, folding knives, and even a few fixed blades. I had a small folding knife that my father had given me. Blame pulled me aside. "Hey, I got something to tell you," he said. "Yeah, what is it?" "I'll tell you when you drop that freaking attitude," he yelled. "I have a gun." I raised my eyebrows. "Are you serious?" I asked. "Yeah, man." Blame pulled up a city, revealing a 9mm pistol sloppily holstered in his belt. "Hey, that's great. How much ammo do you have?" I asked. 2 magazines," he replied. I stood up. "Everybody, I have an announcement to make." Everybody went silent in anticipation. "We have a gun." The class cheered. I walked to the other side of the classroom. In case you were wondering too, we don't have windows in our classroom. Since where we were at, we were located at the heart of the school, and even if we did, we were way up on the 3rd floor anyway. "Now, did anybody try calling the police?" I asked. "Nah, they keep hanging up on us. They don't think that we're serious," one kid had said. Of course they did. I pulled out my phone and I typed down everything that had happened so far into a sort of digital journal to keep everybody updated on what happened. Should we get up? My heart dropped as something huge bashed against the door. Everybody screamed and they backed away. "No crap, dog," Blame said. He turned the safety off his pistol. "No." I put my hand gently on his pistol. "Save it for later. I'm gonna get a good look at this thing." Upon not hearing any other noises, I walked to the door and peeked through, trying to get a view. I looked out into the hallway and got a long and good look at the thing that had already killed 5 of our classmates. There was a damn monster right outside of our classroom. "Oh my God," I said, backing away from the window. The monster crawling in the hallway was about 15 feet long, and it had a fairly skinny and humanoid form, with a strange, sleek body design. I would say that it had to at least be 2 feet taller than me, making it an even 7 feet tall. It had a black, eyeless, tooth-filled, and sleek head that looked somewhat like the head of an anglerfish. In place of its legs, the creature's thin lower body ended in a crown of thick tentacles and tendrils, all moving and squirming to keep the creature standing. It had 2 webbed arms that were tipped with 7 fingers and 7 claws. The creature was a pale and translucent color. "What is it, dog?" Blaine pulled out his pistol and looked out the window. "Oh shit, man." Blaine backed away and pointed his pistol aggressively. I immediately rushed over and covered the window. "What the heck is going on? Why are you acting like a bunch of babies?" a kid asked. "Yo, dog, some weird alien gorilla squid thing be standing outside," Blaine told him. "You kidding me right now?" "Nah, truth." The quiet kid was hesitant, but he walked over to the door and took a look outside at the monster. "Holy crap, he's telling the truth," he yelled. One girl who had been crying the whole time screamed, "What's going on? Why won't anybody?" Blaine straight up turned and punched her in the face. "Silence. I can't even hear my own thoughts." "So, what do we do?" "Well, I don't know. You have the gun," I said. "I guess we're pretty safe in here for now. We do need to get out of here sometime, though. The police aren't coming anytime soon, that's for sure. What supplies do we have?" The quiet kid, Armin, a short kid in a gray hoodie, said, "I've got 3 throwing knives and 2 fireworks on me, and a lighter." The school didn't really regulate what came in and out of the property. There was even a rumor that the principal had a 50 cal sniper rifle and 20 pistols in his office desk. I didn't know how accurate that rumor was, but if Principal Marlowe was alive, we would find out. No kidding, this school had enough firepower to take over New York. "We also have a couple of broomsticks," one kid said. "Broomsticks? Shotguns?" I asked. "No, actual broomsticks, like the wooden stick thingies. And some duct tape," Armin said. "Then let's make some spears, dog," Blaine said. There were about 5 long broomsticks in the maintenance room. I picked one up, broke the broom off, and grabbed some duct tape and Blaine's folding knife. Some kid took the broomsticks and started carving them into spears, or just duct taping knives to the ends of them. In the end of it, I had a deadly makeshift spear. "Wait, so how many of you don't have weapons?" One kid, Edmund, had said. "I'm a lover, not a fighter." Sorry, dog, you're on your own then." We split up the remaining makeshift weapons for the rest of the kids. You know, it's funny how most schools don't allow weapons inside of their building, but how easily weapons can be made out of things already there. In the end, we had kids with knives, one kid with a gun, Blame, broken and sharpened chair legs, 5 fireworks, a few throwing knives, some makeshift spears, and 1 Brooklyn Crusher cold steel baseball bat. "Any sign of the creature?" I asked. Blame looked outside. "Nah." "Alright, everybody. Y'all ready?" I asked the class. No, I'm not a teacher and I'm not some security guard. But most of us were some tough kids who secretly stashed knives in their backpacks. But that should be good enough. Keep your eyes open and don't die, or I'll end myself and I'll kill you again. I slowly unlocked the door and opened it. Blame led the way, pointing his pistol down the hallway. The rest of us, holding our Dollarama-grade weapons, followed behind. The dimly lit hallways were eerily quiet. Our school was big, like really big, and to make matters worse, our classroom was held on the highest floor and the farthest away from the stairwell. But how the hell a demonic monster caused a lockdown was unknown. And strangely, all the windows and some of the walls were covered with this black gunk and goo that surprisingly held everything shut. In the middle of the silence, without warning, a student ran out of the classroom screaming. Behind him, the monster chased him out of the classroom screeching. It noticed us and then started advancing, trying to trip us with its long tendrils. It got a hold of one kid and almost bit his head off, but he managed to jab at it and escaped. "Eat this." Blame emptied an entire magazine into the creature. It screeched in pain and recoiled, giving him time to reload. One of the kids, who I assume was taught by a redneck, threw a spear at the creature, impaling it straight through the chest. Armin lit his fireworks and shot the 1,000 spark explosive directly at the creature. I ran, adrenaline pumping, and I kicked the dying monster down and drove my spear straight through its head. For good measure, one of the more athletic kids bashed the creature's head in with that baseball bat too. "Good stuff," Blame said, blowing smoke off his pistol. "Let's get a closer look at this thing," I said. "I don't really know what I'm looking at." "Hey, Charlie." The boy Charlie, a little shorter than me and wearing square glasses and a button-up t-shirt, said, "Yeah." "Can you identify this?" I asked. "How should I know what that thing is?" "Because you're always watching those National Geographic and like sea life and stuff." "Yeah, fine." Charlie bent over the 7-foot-long creature and examined it. Yeah, I got it," he said. I excitedly asked, "Well, what is it?" I don't know, you freaking idiot." He gave up. I sighed and sat down in the middle of the hallway. The rest of the kids were just pretty excited about taking the monster out in the first place. "Come on, Charlie, can you at least try?" I asked. "Yeah, fine. It looks to me to be a carnivore. I mean, look at it, it's certainly built like a predator, and it has some anglerfish and marine aspects of its biology. But it also has an anthropomorphic tentacle and humanoid features, which makes it totally unrelated to any other life form on this earth. And it also has a very skinny stomach, meaning that it does not eat the things that it kills. It instead does something else to them. And, based on its drone-like and basic features, it's probably a member of a hive species, as it exhibits certain features of ant and colony species, such as refraining from regular food consumption and giving the available resources and nutrition to the rest of the hive or colony. Blame let out an aggravated sigh. "Yo, dog, I can't understand half the crap your dumb brain shot at me." "So, there are more of those things in the school?" I asked. "Yeah, probably," Charlie said. "There wouldn't be any sense for there to only be one of them." I took out my phone and made another quick update to my digital journal. We continued down to the other side of the hallway, to the 3-floor stairwell. Downstairs, all the lights were broken or turned off. The class and I stopped at the edge of the stairwell. Looking from the top, it went down into a black abyss. Couldn't even see the bottom. We could hear some large life form moving around further toward the bottom of the stairs. I readied my spear. The objective: reach the front doors and get the heck out of here. The stairwell going down was dark as heck. Half the class, holding weapons and phones in the other, used their flashlight apps to light the way. Blame was practicing his finishing lines for the moment. I may have neglected to mention that most of the staircase was covered in that black, awful-smelling gunk and goo. 6 o'clock, one of our classmates yelled. Screw you, it's only 1 o'clock right now, Blame said, checking his watch. No, below us. I looked down. One of the creatures, this one was much bigger, was climbing up the stairs from the first floor. Several of us threw spears down at the monster, impaling its humanoid back. This one was more durable and harder to take out. I'm gonna mess you up, Blame yelled at me, pointing his pistol down at the monster. No, save your ammunition for later, I said. We'll take care of this. I turned to Armin. What's your biggest firework? He pulled a long black cylinder out of his backpack and grinned. Black diamond fireworks. Armin handed me one of the Black Diamond Pro fireworks and I lit it and sent it flying down the stairs, right at the monster. Right as the monster leaped to the 3rd floor where we were, the firework collided directly with its face, sending a massive and explosive array of sparks and flames into the air. It fell the whole 3 floors down and I heard something crack. The creature tried to grab the railing with one of its tentacles, but a makeshift spear to its head ended that quickly. Holy crap, that gave me a heart attack, I said. Yo, we getting out of here? Blame asked. Yeah, let's go. We went down the stairs without trouble and collected the spears and knives from the creature's body on the 1st floor. Then the remaining members of our class, around 20-something kids, went into the main dark hallway. It was huge but eerily empty. I had seen it countless times, filled to the brim with kids moving around to get to the next classes. But now, it was a dark black hallway with monsters crawling around the premises. Were we the only surviving class? If not, why didn't we find any of the bodies? Where did these creatures even come from? The questions lingered in my head for a bit. Where do we go? One of Dan's friends who didn't go out into the hallway had asked. To the front doors, then we get the heck out of here. Yeah, I know, but the front doors are all the way on the other side of the school. So? I asked. We took out 2 of them already, and remember, we're not gonna die. We continued down the hallways when I noticed something very eerie. The whole place except for the floor was covered in that black ooze. What do you even think this stuff is? I asked Charlie, walking down the hallway with the rest of my classmates. Well, that's probably some kind of communication pheromone, he replied, or some hive-making material. This backs my theory that there's a colony or a hive of these things. I stared at an empty trophy case and moved on. The front door was maybe 200 feet away from us now. So you think that these creatures are using the school as a hive or a nest? Charlie shrugged. Maybe, he replied. Well, where do you think they came from? Maybe some undiscovered subterrestrial species. They don't have eyes. Or maybe they're extraterrestrial creatures. I call the main monsters drones, since, that's what they probably are. Drones of some kind of colony. You talking like aliens or something? Yeah, possibly, Charlie replies. What if the whole town is like this? I asked. Well, then we're screwed. And with that calming assurance, we continued on. When we passed a classroom, a huge black and skinny arm grabbed Armin by the leg and dragged him into it. The monster screeched and leapt out of the dark before we could even react, dragging Armin as it crawled down the hallway, holding him down with its tendrils. No! Armin screamed, trying to stab at the creature. "Come on, chase it, we gotta get him," I screamed. The entire class, brandishing Dollarama quality weapons, gave chase as we ran after the creature holding our men. Despite only having a massive tentacles and a couple of spider-like appendages as legs, eventually I caught up to the creature despite my fear of it, and I drove a knife-tipped spear into its side. It screeched out in pain and swatted me away with its free hand, and I slammed into the wall. The class caught up to me on the floor as the creature got away. I threw my spear at it, but it clattered just a few feet away from the creature. No. My heart dropped. I was too slow, too weak. I saw it run off, dragging Armin, and the monster went into the basement door on the side of the hallway, and it went down into the huge gym of the school. "Holy crap," I said. "Armin just got taken. We gotta go after him." "Are you insane?" Edmund yelled. "That guy's probably dead by now. It's best that we get out now while the creatures are distracted." "Shut up. We need to go and get him back. Who knows how much time we have left?" I argued. "How do you know that he's even alive? Dan and Ryan got taken. Why didn't you go after them? How do you even know that he's okay? He could be gone right now." "Oh, screw yourself," I yelled. "We didn't see Ryan, Dan, and Linda get killed. They just got dragged off. For all we know, they could still be alive right now. Charlie said that most hive drones don't eat the things they catch. Instead, they wait until the superior of the colony is ready to feed. Right, Charlie?" Yeah, he replied. "Still," Edmund said. "Yo, dog, I only have one rule," Blame said. "And that's, I'm not leaving anybody behind." "So why are you stopping us from going to save them?" I asked Edmund. "Fine, you can be a baby and leave like you are, but then you'll be all alone in the school." "Look," Charlie said. "How about the rescue and reconnaissance team take 5 or 4 members and the rest of us can hunker down in the classroom, wait until you come back. If you guys don't come back in an hour or more, we'll think that you're all dead too. Okay?" Charlie sighed and turned to me. "So, do you agree with the plan?" he asked. "Yeah, let's go do this." Group 1, Charlie's group, which was half of the class, stayed behind in a locked and barricaded classroom with their weapons at the ready. Group 2, which consisted of Blame, Jackson, Sergio, Nicholas, Mark, and I, would be armed to the teeth heading to the gym, where we last saw the drone take our men. For more effectiveness, Blaine dipped all of his bullets in some literal crap he found in the washroom toilets, and then dipped them in Clorox and vinegar from the maintenance closet, and put them back in his magazines. I don't really know where he's going with it, but hopefully it helps. So, if we don't come back in an hour, it means that we're dead. If we don't come back, leave this place immediately. It might not even be safe outside. I told Charlie just before we left for the gym. "Yeah, I got it. Good luck, soldier," he said. Our rescue group walked down the hallway possibly for the last time, as we stood in front of the gym. "Yo, dog, it's locked," Blame said. "How?" I asked. "We just saw the creature come in here. I didn't know they were intelligent enough to turn the locks." "Nah, not that. That weird gooey stuff is stuck in the doorknob. We'll get it off." Blame grinned and fired a vinegar shot into the edges of the cheap doorknob. The doorknob squeaked and then completely fell off, making the door easy to just kick open. "All right, everybody. You ready?" he asked. "Yeah, let's do this. For Armand and whoever else is trapped in here." We were about to go right into the belly of the beast. I kicked the door open and entered. It's time to fight back. The gym, which I had seen so many countless times filled with kids, was eerily or seemingly empty. It was also pitch black inside. Yo dog, y'all got a flashlight? I ignored him as Mark turned his phone's flashlight app on. My heart was beating like crazy as I looked around for any possible threats. Once the gym was weakly lit up with our phone flashlights, I could see that everywhere, and I mean everywhere, was covered in that gelatinous black substance. There were 15-foot tall structures made out of a more solid organic material, coming out of the ground and the ceiling like stalagmites. The creatures, assuming that they had made this, had also covered all exit and entry points with that weird black substance. Where are all the monsters? I asked. And then I heard a very deep growl come from the very back of the gym, and then a creature emerged into the light. It was large, maybe 10 feet tall at least and 11 feet long. This monster was much different from the drones that we had seen before. It walked with the same gait as a velociraptor would, and instead of having a mass of tentacles as its legs, the monster walked on 4 sharp, jointed legs. Further up its body where the humanoid-like torso began, 2 shorter yet still deadly-looking legs came out of the front of the torso, and it had several pointed and sharp tentacles coming out of its body. The head looked nearly identical to the drones, except for this member of the colony, which I had taken to calling warrior drones, was longer and had even sharper teeth. As Charlie had said, in a colony, there are different members and classes tasked with different roles. This monster looked like it was responsible for guarding the species' hive or colony, just like the warrior bee or ant would do. The monster circled us as we tried to stab it with our spears. Jackson threw a smaller spear at the warrior drone, which impaled the creature straight in the chest. The monster, which took less damage than I had expected, tripped him with a long tendril and pinned him down. The warrior drone lifted its sharp front legs to stab Jackson, but Blame as always interrupted. "Eat lead," Blame yelled. Blame fired several shots at the creature. One bullet missed and hit one of the drone's stalagmites, but the other 2 met their mark. In case you didn't know, the concoction that Blame had mixed, it made a highly toxic and harmful chemical, and if you get injected with something that has that, it is very bad and it can kill you over time. That mixed with what he had dunked it in the toilet makes a deadly bullet that makes silver bullets dipped in ash look like plastic darts. The warrior drones and normal drones probably have a very negative reaction to concoctions like that, because the warrior drone started screeching and thrashing as the surrounding area of the bullet wounds literally melted and fell off. I pulled out a switchblade that I had, jumped on top of the thrashing monster, and I continuously stabbed at its head. I jumped off just in time as Mark thrusted his spear into the warrior drone, finishing it off. I caught my breath and did one more stab for good measure. "Blame, did you dip all your bullets in that awful concoction?" "I sure did," Blame replied, looking as cool as a cucumber. I sighed. "Hey, let's keep going. I think your bullets actually worked, Blame." "Help! Somebody help!" I heard someone who sounded like Armin yell in the distance. "Where are you?" I yelled. "Over here." The voice came from the right side of the gym. We traced it back to the source, Armin, who was held into the wall. His arms, legs, and torso were covered with that weird black substance, which was holding him down as a glue trap would. We made short work of it with our blades, and after he was cut free, Armin stepped out in front of us, coughing up some of the black substance. "Holy, I thought that I was a goner," Armin said at last. "What the heck happened here?" I asked. Yeah, you're asking me, he replied. Man, that was gross. Those drones or whatever took me into this place and threw up that black goo and pinned me down. They're trying to eat us, and from the looks of it, they wait for a little bit until one of the colony members gets hungry, and then they bring one of us out to eat. They keep taking the captured ones somewhere. I never saw, though. What about Dan and the other jocks? Did you see them? Are they dead? Yeah, I think they're gone. They just got carried out through the locker room a couple of minutes before you guys showed up. There are a couple of other kids here too, I think at least. We walked around the whole perimeter of the gym, cutting down the other kids who were taken from other classrooms. In total, after we were done, we had saved about 6 other kids. Just before we left, I heard a growl come from one of the larger stalagmites. A normal drone, which had somehow not noticed us before, screeched and leapt out at us. Oh, no way, Blame yelled. He fired a bullet into the creature, which temporarily rendered it harmless. I, along with the rest of the rescue team and the survivors that we had rescued, ran back out into the hallway, and I started banging on the door of the classroom that Group 1 was holed up in. Charlie, let me in. It's Christopher. Charlie, on the other side of the door, unlocked it and removed the barricade, and he let us in. We all quickly got back into the classroom. Satisfyingly, Edmund, who was probably betting that we would all be dead, just watched with his jaw dropped at all the people that we had saved, including our men. I grinned. Hey, you got proved wrong, huh? Edmund looked enraged, but he didn't say anything. Hey, Charlie, I said. Yeah, dude, what's up? He asked. I guess you were right about the whole colony thing. The drones are using the gym as some sort of food storage area. And there are stronger drones, warrior drones or guards. They're bigger, tougher, and more deadly. Charlie nodded and wrote something down on a notepad that he had found in the classroom. Huh, interesting. Again, now let's get the double H heck out of here, I yelled. The class cheered. We eagerly ran down the hallway at full speed to the front doors of the school beside the office. When we finally reached them, my heart dropped. Both the doors, even the windows, were covered in an extremely thick layer of that black gunk, so thick that even our spears couldn't penetrate them. No, 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 I said. Oh gosh, we're trapped in this enormous bully van, huh? I sighed. Yeah. The class went up in a panic and I understood them. After all, we were stuck in a dark school filled to the brim with monsters with limited supplies. And then just on time, a growl came from one of the other hallways, and a drone stepped out of the darkness, with a warrior drone right behind it. Get back, I yelled. The class, holding spears, backed into a corner. With a sudden pounce, the warrior drone got a hold of Jackson with one of its tentacles and impaled him with one of its razor-sharp legs and dragged him back. Jackson! This wasn't looking good. We couldn't keep losing members. The monsters pushed us down behind the office, but at the very last second, I heard a huge blast, like the sound of a gunshot amplified by 10 times. And then I saw the top of the warrior drone literally explode into pieces. Through the ringing in my ears, I heard multiple heavy pistol shots, and the worker drone was shredded into pieces. The school's office door swung open, and Principal Marlowe stepped out. He was well into his 60s, a former staff sergeant and an Army veteran, who had served in the U.S. Army for more than 15 years. He had a graying beard and was wearing a red bandana on his head, and was holding a close-quarters .50 caliber sniper rifle and 2 pistols professionally holstered in his belt. How the heck did you kids survive this long? Principal Marlowe said. It wasn't a real question, it was more of an amazed comment. Dang, Christopher, is that you? Principal Marlowe asked. Yeah, is that a 50 cal? Sure is, son. I don't know, just kept it in my office 'cause I love this stuff. Marlowe turns to Blame and looks at the gun in his hand. Brian? Blame was just a nickname for his real name, Brian. Is that a 9mm in your hand? Heck yeah, dog. And my name ain't Brian, player, it's Blame. Okay, Blame. If we get out of this mess, you're going to be expelled. Also, how did you take those things out with your pea shooter? Hey man, I dipped them in bleach and vinegar, Blame exclaimed proudly. Okay. I decided that I had had enough with this reunion. Principal Marlowe, how are we getting out of here? We're trapped, and do you know what these things are? Marlowe nodded. I do know what these things are. He inhaled. You know about the basement, huh? Well, right below the basement, a huge underground cave and lake system was uncovered. It was discovered when a hole opened up directly on top of the cave entrance. The school council didn't want too much attention, so they hired a private construction team to seal it up. I let this slide. There would be too many lawsuits, and I don't care about that stuff. So this afternoon, some of the construction workers went down and brought their more heavy-duty equipment for the first time. And I guess the vibrations woke up those things from deep inside a lake in the cave. I don't know what actually happened, but I was on my lunch break when I heard some screaming in the basement, and those things came up to the surface. I put the school on lockdown while I hunkered down in the office with my sniper. After a couple of hours had gone by, one of those creatures attacked the office, and I put probably 10 bullets into it. In a matter of hours, the creatures covered the whole school in that weird black goo stuff. They covered the doors and windows really well. Even my 50 cal can't get through them. Must be 4 feet thick, I swear. I stayed in my office for a while, and then things got quiet. These monsters must have somehow turned off all the lights because it was super dark. I hadn't seen a class in hours, so I assumed that they were all in their classes locked in. I was preparing to go out and explore more when I heard some screaming, and your whole class came into here, getting chased down by 2 of those things. So I shot at them, and here we are now. So these things aren't aliens. They come from a freaking cave from beneath the school's basement. Yeah, it seems like it, Marlowe replied. Why were you trying to go out? I asked. Well, to go to the breakers in the electrical room and to light this place up. But now I can't since I need to watch you all. We could go, I volunteered. In fact, we just came back from the feeding area of these things, and we rescued about 7 kids or something. If a group of you are up for it, then sure, Marlowe said. But I ain't letting you go unarmed. One of you, Blame, already has a pistol with crap bullets, so I'll give you some of the old guns that I have in my emergency kit. Marlowe walked into his office and came back out with 2 pistols and a small 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. He threw the gun over to me and I dropped my spear and caught it. Chris, you know how to use this thing? The principal asked. Yeah, I played airsoft in Call of Duty. Alright, good enough. Marlowe turned to Armin, who was wiping the black gunk off of his shirt. Hey, Arden, you know how to use this? He threw him a pistol. Yeah, I do. Ironically, my dad's a cop. Taught me how to use a gun when I was 12. Marlowe gave the 3rd gun, a small bolt-action hunting rifle, to one of Blame's friends. With that all settled and the rest of the class holed up in the office safe, Marlowe broke down the plan. Alright, do you know where the electrical room is? In the hall, going through the cafeteria on the side. When you get there, turn the breakers back on and that should deactivate the lockdown system, turning the lights off. Okay? If the rest of your class and I aren't in the office when you're back, somebody take the 50 cal and they can use the rounds. A minute later, and armed to the teeth with firearms and knives, Blame, Armin, and his friend, RJ, and I were walking to the cafeteria on the other side of the school. Holy crap, This is my first time holding a real weapon, I exclaimed, holding the shotgun. It ain't gonna be your last, Blame said. Got some extra shoots for mine, player. What is this? RJ asked, holding his wooden stock bolt-action rifle. This thing ain't for me. It ain't even that good, man. Somehow in the 4 hours that had gone by with us trapped in the school, the drones had somehow covered most of the inside with that black goo, giving it a hive-like appearance. A growl came from one of the classrooms. I held my hand up, signaling to stop. I slowly slid open the door and I peeked inside. There was a drone dragging an unconscious kid by the leg. It looked at me and then screeched its lungs out. I then did what people tell first-time shooters to do when firing a gun. Point, aim, and fire. And I missed. The monster looked at me and prepared to pounce, but Blame grabbed a hold of the shotgun and landed one heck of a shot. Being at such a close range with the gun packing so much power, the entire chest of the monster was obliterated, and it fell to its side. To make sure that it was dead, Blame fired an extra round just to be safe. What do we do with the kid? RJ asked, pointing to the unconscious kid laying in the classroom floor. Let's lock him in until we get back, I said, and I walked over and shut the door from the outside, and I locked it with the skeleton key that Marlo had given us for such an occasion. We turned the hallway going right into the cafeteria when something had banged the door from inside a classroom. Guys, it's a bunch of different kids, Blame said, looking into the class. I unlocked the door and I went in, to find a bunch of 9th graders standing in front of it. I'm sure as heck they were surprised because I would be too if a group of 10th graders holding guns just opened up the door and walked in. One kid who looked to be the tallest and the leader stepped forward and confronted me. Who are you? The kid asked, suddenly pushing me. The question you should be asking is, why am I asking who the heck these people are? I replied, pushing back. The kid then spotted my gun strapped to my shoulder. He grabbed the barrel of a loaded gun and tried to take it from me. What the heck, man? I said, kicking the guy off me. Stop fighting! A girl screamed from the back. The kid threw a punch at my face, but I ducked and tripped his legs. He got up and punched me in the stomach and knocked me down. He pinned me to the ground and punched my face, but thinking quickly, I reached into my pocket and drew my knife. The kid suddenly backed up at the sight of it. You're forgetting who you're messing with right now, I said. I'm the one with a knife and a gun. Calm down and stop being so hostile. Yeah, fine, the kid replied. I didn't bother going with the old, what did you just say to me? Act. Instead, I asked the kid standing behind him, a shorter, chubby guy who looked like he was in the 7th grade, not the 9th. What happened to your class? I asked him. So when the lockdown started, one of our classmates got dragged out by this thing. So we locked the door and we've been in here ever since. Well, what about your teacher? He went outside to get help and we haven't seen him since. Why are you all holding guns? Where did you even get them? Blame replied. Principal Marley gave them to us, and we're going to the cafeteria to turn the lights back on. We can't have a whole class to drag with us, and there's already an unconscious kid in the other classroom. So we'll grab you when we get back. I threw the secondary pistol towards the class, assuming that they would need it. You guys seem to have managed pretty well, but there's a gun just in case. Lock the doors until we get back, which we probably won't. And with that, we shut the door and continued down the hallway. At the end of it, 2 swinging doors led to the enormous cafeteria, which was just as eerie and empty as the rest of the class. Also, like the rest of the school, the whole place, including the ceiling, was covered in that black gunk. From the darkness, I heard another growl, which meant that another monster was nearby. We didn't have to go and find it, the monster found us. A very, very large warrior drone, possibly 12 feet tall, so tall that it had to crouch down and came out of the hallway on the left. My God, that's a big one, I said. Fire. And with that, everybody holding their different firearms began to pump the big monster with bullets in pain. The giant warrior drone recoiled and shrieked, but it didn't go down. "Man, I should have used my old bullets," Blame said, blowing the smoke of his new pistol. The warrior drone lifted its razor-sharp arm and swept at a pile of stacked chairs, sending them flying in our direction. One of the chairs hit me dead center and knocked me over. I screamed in pain for a couple of seconds before picking up my shotgun and slam firing at the monster. Despite chunks of flesh getting ripped out, it ignored me and instead picked up Blame and dropped him, still holding his knife straight into its mouth. The last thing that I heard Blame yell before he fell down the maw of the warrior drone was, "No, oh God, no!" And then the monster dropped Blame straight down its enormous gullet. I felt my heart drop seeing my best friend get eaten by the huge drone. I picked up my shotgun and started running towards the monster. As I was running towards the warrior drone, one of the most unbelievable things in my life happened. The warrior drone started making choking noises and then started convulsing, screeching, and heaving. And I spotted a shiny silver blade protrude out of the creature's stomach. The blade sticking out of the monster cut right across the whole underside, and the enormous wound in the creature opened up, and guts, black blood, and a very pale Blame spilled out onto the cafeteria floor. He was covered from head to toe in saliva, slime, and guts, but other than that and a few scratch marks on his exposed skin, he seemed fine. "Holy crap," I said, running to Blame and giving him a hug, ignoring the slime and guts. "How did you do that?" "Man, that was hard. Smelled horrible in there." "How are you even alive?" Armin asked incredulously. Blame just shrugged. "You want to keep going or you want to head back? I mean, you did just get eaten alive by a cave monster," I said. Nah, man. I can keep going. I think some of the guts got in my mouth. Man, screw me. It tastes sweet." I nervously laughed, and the four of us kept going. Before we left, Blame kicked the monster and said one last, "Screw you," to it. We went through the cafeteria and finally found the electrical room. I went inside, found the breakers, and said, "Let there be light," before flipping them on. The lights in the school lit up one by one, and the whole place was flooded with the familiar light that we had gotten used to in our years of attending. I grinned. "Yeah, we did it." We all congratulated each other and had a short celebration, and we went back through the cafeteria out the hallway that we had come in from. And that's when we heard screaming coming from the classroom full of survivors that we had just seen. We hauled it over to the class and found a disturbing scene. There were two anglers, both of them regular drones, cornering the class. There was a dead drone laying on the floor which that sketchy kid had probably killed, but they had run out of ammo. One of the monsters grabbed a kid and began to drag him out of the classroom. "Hold your fire, you might hit them." We lowered our weapons and pulled out our knives and spears instead. Armin and I snuck up on one of the drones and made quick work of it. The other drone snapped its head at us and screeched. Armin slashed at the monster, but it hit him with its tail, and Armin crashed into a cluster of desks. Then the monster started to circle me in the classroom. "That guy's right on ya," Blame yelled. "Yeah, I can see that," I said, as the monster circled me. "Pass me your knife." Blame threw his knife and I caught it. But I caught it by the blade itself and I cut my hand badly. I repositioned the knife in my hand and I threw it at the drone's head. The handle of the knife harmlessly hit the drone and fell down. "What the heck was that?" Blame asked. "A distraction," I said, as I quickly sidestepped the distracted drone and stabbed it right in the neck with my other knife. This one didn't go down as easily as I had hoped, and in a flash, I was knocked right off the drone, still holding my knife. The drone leapt at me and pinned me down before I could kick it off, and I was instantly crushed to the ground under its immense weight. It opened its mouth and kept biting at me as I kept rolling over to dodge it. The drone bit at me and it got a hold of its long and forked tongue, and I cut it off. I drew the blade back and stabbed it clean through the roof of its mouth, just as RJ came in and started viciously attacking the monster in the side. I sighed and kicked the dead monster off me. I guess I'll add that to the kill count, I said. I remembered what Charlie had said about there being a certain limit to members of a colony in a certain area. I wondered how much of the drone population we had taken out. We led the class back down the hallway into the office, and that's when I remembered about the unconscious kid that we had left in the locked classroom. Ah, crap, I exclaimed, remembering. What is it? Blame asked. We left the unconscious kid in the classroom and forgot to take him with us. We left Armin and RJ to protect the 9th grade class while Blame and I went back down the hallway to retrieve the unconscious kid that we had forgotten about. I pushed the key in and I turned the lock and opened the door. Inside, the kid was still laying on the ground, unconscious. How is he still unconscious? I groaned. Yeah, man, you sure he isn't dead? I walked up to the teen and knelt down, checking his pulse. Yeah, he's still alive. Might just be concussed or something. Blame and I grabbed one leg each and began to drag the knocked out kid down the hallway. For only being about 15 years old, give or take, he sure was heavy. Swear that he must have weighed over 150. The kid's eyes suddenly shot open as he regained consciousness and he jumped up. What's happening? He screamed. And then he saw the 2 teenagers holding guns, dragging him down the school hallway. What the? But before he could finish, Blame threw a wild haymaker at the kid, knocking him out and sending him crashing to the floor. I liked him better when he was unconscious. Blame chuckled softly. He grabbed his legs again and finished the walk to the office. Back there, we were greeted by our class, Army vet Principal Marlowe, Armin, RJ, and the other class that we had saved. Marlowe walked out of the office holding a rifle and looked at the unconscious kid that we were dragging down the now lit hallway. Hey, well done. You can keep the guns, you guys have earned them. I dragged the kid to the front of the office and I dropped him there. Here, I don't know what to do with him. You're the principal, I guess. Hey, Blame, why are you covered in all that mess? And come into my office and tell me everything that happened. Blame and I walked into the principal's private office and sat down in the 2 chairs that we had sat down in so many times before, in trouble for doing all kinds of stuff. So, what happened out there? I grinned and took in a deep breath. Well, while we were going down the hallway, we found a drone and dragging an unconscious kid out of a classroom. We easily disposed of it and locked the door and left to get him later. I also found a whole class of survivors and I got in a fight with one of them when they tried to steal my gun. I ended up giving one of the kids a pistol and we left. When we got to the cafeteria, one of these things called a warrior drone, which are like the regular drones but on steroids, attacked us. It ended up eating Blame and... Marlowe laughed. Wait, if one of these things ate Brian, then how was he? I'll get to that part. So, Blame got eaten by one of the monsters and he ended up escaping and killing it by cutting open the stomach on the inside and crawling out. I sure did, Blame said. Marlowe laughed again, but he couldn't really doubt it because Blame was covered in guts and black slime. I continued. So, we made it to the breakers and turned the lights on, as you can see, and left the cafeteria. We showed up in the nick of time just as the class of survivors were being attacked by one of those monsters, and we managed to take all of them out with only our knives. We took them back here, forgot about the kid, grabbed him, and took him back here as well. We killed 4 of those things in total, so we can keep the guns. Yeah, sure, I have like 20 more anyway, Marlowe replied. He checked his watch, which surprisingly still worked. It's almost nighttime. Does that change anything? I asked. I mean, the lights are going to be on as long as the electricity is running, and there's virtually no light coming in from the outside. Well, we'll still have to sleep. In this office? Yeah, we can make it work. A few hours later at 9 o'clock, our class and the other class were sitting around the office trying to sleep. Blame, Armin, and I weren't trying to, though. We were keeping watch right outside the office. Do you think the whole town is like this? Armin asked at last. Our urban town was medium-sized, yet in an isolated area in the Pacific Northwest. There was a lot of violence in our area, and Blame and RJ belonged to a particular group that took part in that. Yeah, maybe, I said, but everybody here is armed as heck, so the drones probably don't stand a chance outside of this high school. Armin chuckled in response. Well, Charlie and the principal said that the drones are some kind of colony species that come from an enormous underground lake deep below the school in an underground cave system. But yeah, I've never seen anything like this before. Just then, I heard something fall over and crash in one of the further hallways. We all shut up. What was that? Heck if I know, I replied. Let's go check it out. Bring the guns. With all of us armed, the three of us walked a little further down the hallway, into a classroom on the left. It came from over here, I whispered. Hey, let's go inside. 5, 4, 3, 1. Armin kicked open the door, and as soon as we went inside, his pistol was pulled from his grip. Somebody put him in a headlock and pressed an old kitchen knife against his throat. Well, 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 what do we have here? Don't move. I burst into the classroom and pointed my shotgun at the crazed Ryan. What the heck? Ryan hissed. You left me for dead out there. Didn't even come and try to help. Well, what did you expect? We told you not to go out. And still you didn't come to help, and now you'll lose a friend. Blame suddenly appeared behind Ryan and pressed his pistol to the back of Ryan's head. Try me. I'll shoot your head off. Ryan let out a maniacal laugh. You idiots try anything stupid and I'll cut your throat. I pumped the shotgun, loading it. As soon as either of us shoots you, you'll be gone before you try anything. Bullets are quicker than knives. You want to try me? Ryan screamed, pulling Armin tighter in the headlock. I took one step forward with my shotgun. Why not? Now let go of Armin, now or... Ryan lifted his knife to stab Armin, but with an unexpected turn of events, he had silently managed to get a hold of his knife that was sheathed in his pocket, and he pulled it out and he jabbed Ryan in the side. Ryan screamed out in pain, letting Armin go as he gripped the wound, but slowly he got back up. Before he lunged at us, Ryan growled, "That was a mistake, you." But just as Ryan lifted his arm to stab the closest person to him, being me, I heard a loud gunshot go off and Ryan slumped to the ground with a new hole in his arm. Behind him stood Blame, blowing the smoke of his pistol. Ryan screamed out in pain, holding the wound down with his hand, and then he passed out. Watch your decisions, dog. I stared at Ryan screaming on the floor. You wanna go bury him or something? Armin shook his head. Nah, he's still alive. The drones will probably come to get him soon anyways. Screw you, Ryan. Ryan psychopathically screamed out in response, waking up. Let's get back to the office, I said. When we made it back, Marlo was waiting inside with his rifle. What happened out there? I heard gunshots, he asked. We just ran into a little trouble out there, but we took care of it, I answered. Marlo nodded. I think that's enough of keeping watch for tonight. Why don't you all get some rest inside? I'll take over from here. Yeah, that'd be great, I tiredly said. I woke up to panicked whispers and the sight of lights flickering right outside of the barricaded office. I got up and then realized that the lights weren't flickering. Something was covering them with a thick black liquid. And then I realized that 5 drones were crawling on the ceiling, vomiting black goo onto the lights and turning the whole place dark. Before we realized what was happening, the drones had covered almost all the lights in the vicinity, bathing us in the pitch black. In the silence and shuffling of 30-something kids in the classroom, someone suddenly grabbed my shoulder and spun me around. "What the?" "Yo, relax, dog, it's me," Flame said. "The heck is going on?" Marlowe walked out of his private office with a large lantern and turned it on, illuminating a small part of the office. "All right, I need silence, everyone," he said. "The Algoma extermination team and I." Maybe a little context would be helpful. The name of our high school was Algoma High, even though we don't live anywhere near Ontario. And so, when we were a little bit bored, we thought a good name for our little group who were exterminating drones and doing general jobs would be the Algoma extermination team. Marlowe continued on. "We'll go investigate outside. Charlie, you watch the students and make sure that none of them do any dumb stuff. Let's move out and kick some butt." I got up and grabbed my shotgun and I checked the ammo. Satisfied with what I saw, I hauled butt to Marlowe's private office, where Blame and Armin were waiting to catch up. "Listen up," Marlowe said. "We go out, clear the whole place, and kill every one of those monsters out there, and then we come back." When we loaded up, armed to the teeth with guns, headlamps, emergency flashlights, knives, and a few Molotov cocktails. I turned the safety off my shotgun and I walked outside with Marlowe, Blame, and Armin following along. Come out," Marlowe said. When we had walked about 10 meters away from the office, my headlamp illuminated a smaller drone crawling along the corners in the ceiling. All 4 of us unloaded all that we had on the monster, and soon it was nothing but a couple of separate chunks of flesh on the walls. When my ears had stopped ringing, I tried to kill the panic in my mind and I continued on. But from behind, an enormous tentacle wrapped around me, and an enormous warrior angler lifted me up into the air and just above its mouth as I stared down deep into its gullet. "Do something, dog," Blame screamed. And I did. I jammed the barrel of my shotgun down the monster's throat, and I pulled the trigger, reloaded, and then pulled the trigger. I guess the monster's insides exploded or something because it slowly went limp and dropped me, guts and black blood spewing out of its mouth. "Ew, gross," I said. "You okay?" Marlowe asked. "Yeah, let's just keep going." We turned to left, and that was when something very dangerous happened. I spotted a very fast movement from all around us, and I saw at least 3 drones surrounding me, moving too fast to get caught in our lights. "Marlowe," I whispered, "we're surrounded." "Yeah, I can see that, kid. Now, come on, get ready to fight. It's gonna get messy." Blame suddenly got pulled back from our group formation, and a drone screeched and opened its enormous mouth and prepared to bite a chunk of his shoulder off. I turned and fired my shotgun just inches away from Blame's face, and by pure luck, the spray of metal pellets all hit the drone and blew its skull open. And then I felt a single drop of saliva fall on my chin. "Blame." "Yeah, dog. Are you ready to look up despite the inevitable jump scare?" "Whatever, player." I looked up and stared down the jaws of a drone hanging from the ceiling like a bat, using its tentacles and tendrils to grip the edges of the ceiling frame. I reloaded my shotgun and sidestepped the monster's jaws. Oh, screw me. I let out a shot at the drone, but I horribly missed and I fell over on my butt as the monster slowly crawled down and prepared to eat my brains out. "Marlowe, you're the principal here. I need a little bit of help." stabbing a smaller drone only about 6 feet tall, multiple times with a Bowie knife. Marlo called out, "Yeah, I know, I'm a little busy here." The drone stood up on the floor and it growled. I reloaded my shotgun. "Eat lead, you piece of crap." I was about to fire the shotgun and blow the monster's brains out when it all of a sudden went limp. And Blame, driving a knife down directly into the monster's skull, said, "Oh dog, you talk too much." Most of the things that had been a threat either had their brains ripped from their bodies or they had retreated back into hiding. "Is that all of them?" I asked. "Yeah, probably. It seems like it," Marlo said. "There's still a bunch of bodies on the floor, though." Marlo shrugged. Leave them. If these things have any intelligence or brains, then they'll know not to mess around with Algoma High if there's a bunch of bodies laying around." The 4 members that consisted of the Algoma extermination team checked for any serious wounds, and then we all headed back to the office. "What the heck happened out there?" Charlie walked up to the doors. You're always so concerned, aren't you?" "But yeah, we kicked butt out there," I proudly yelled. Yeah, we did." "Okay," Charlie said. We cleaned up, scraped the gunk off the lights, and did one last perimeter check, and we got back to a very uncomfortable sleep. I woke up, looked around, and then realized something. All the guns were missing. "They're gone! Screw me, they're gone!" I exclaimed. Marlo stumbled awake, definitely shaking off a hangover that he somehow had. "What's gone, son?" "The guns, somebody stole them. Even the 50 cal. "Yeah," I answered. Marlo kicked the wall in frustration. "That is it. Everybody get up now." At one, all 30-something kids jumped out of their sleep, obviously wondering as to why their 50-something principal was screaming his lungs out at 6 in the morning. "What's going on?" Armin asked groggily. "The heck do you think is going on? Somebody stole my guns. Who took all my kids?" "You don't have kids." "Yeah, I have 2, but I don't know them." "No, I'm talking about the guns. The only thing that's keeping our butts alive." "Nobody in the class stole your guns, Marlo," I said. "Somebody else probably." And that's when it hit me. That piece of crap. "Ryan," I yelled. "It was him. He did it." "Who's Ryan and how many testicles does he have? 'Cause he ain't gonna have any when I find him," Marlo said. I answered, "The jock in the football team this year. The one who got suspended for sneaking cheap whiskey into the fruit punch in the staff lounge." "Why isn't he here with us then? I never saw him at any time," he spat. "Remember that trouble that Blame, Armin, and I got into the hallway during the night watch?" "Yeah," I continued. "Well, when the lockdown had first started, he wanted to get out of the classroom to save some kid who was already dead, and he ended up getting himself taken. But I guess that he somehow escaped, and he's pissed off because we didn't save him, and he held Armin at knife point in the classroom. He tried to stab me, but Blame shot him, and we just got out of Dodge, but I guess he survived, found us, and took our guns." Armin interrupted. "Well, if that idiot is still alive and he stole our guns while everybody was asleep, why didn't he just kill us when we were sleeping?" "'Cause he's a psychopath," I suggested. "I guess he thought that way of death was way too fast, and he wanted to leave that to the drones." I checked the office doors. I just locked the doors anyway. No way the drones are going to get in this Fort Knox. I walked across the office full of teenagers and grabbed the old sphere that I had first carved out of a broomstick when the lockdown had began. "Guess we'll have to go back to being old school. Why didn't the drones kill Ryan? He was out there for the whole night, and we didn't hear any screams except when Edmund was being a baby." "I have a theory," Charlie said. I got ready for a very long scientific rant and sat down in one of the folding chairs beside Blame. He continued, "So, we're prey to the drones and they're the predators. We have or used to have guns which block the predators, the drones, from killing and eating us. But I guess they have some level of intelligence because I bet they observed Ryan stealing our weapons and watched what he would do next. Ryan is removing our defenses as prey to defend ourselves, which the drones now know. I don't know how or why, but I think the drones don't or won't kill Ryan, because he's doing acts that help them kill and hunt us. So, essentially, Ryan and the drone colony in our school have some kind of symbiotic relationship. As long as Ryan jeopardizes us and our defenses, the drones won't kill him and they'll keep him alive. So basically, the drones won't kill Ryan because he's helping them. Got it, you numbskulls. Yeah, I said. But how do you know all this stuff? Because I try to avoid ending up working at McDonald's. Oh, Marlo declared. Okay, enough chit-chat. If we don't have guns, how are we going to kill these monsters? I still got mine, Blame said, pulling his shirt up to reveal his old pistol with the crap-dipped bullets. Marlo walked over to Blame. Brian, give me the gun. No way, dog, this is mine. I paid for it. Just give me the gun. I've been in the army for more than 15 years. You're a cheap dollar store shot off the streets. Fine, dang. Blame handed the pistol to Marlo. I started looking around the office for broomsticks and wooden chair legs or anything that we could weaponize, just like we had done when the lockout had first started. I ended up with 15 makeshift and real weapons, 10 we originally had from our class and 5 new ones that I had managed to MacGyver. Here, I tossed a spear to Blame. Oh, we have to use these sticks. We had another problem. We had completely run out of food. We had 2 options, either look for dead bodies to cook and eat like we're cannibals, or we could raid the cafeteria and try to find lunches. How? I asked Marlo once he had addressed the food problem. We only have 15 spears and 1 gun with 1.5 magazines left. We'll have to improvise. I mean, heck, your class survived for more than 4 hours with just a bunch of spears and 1 gun. You can do it again. All you need to do is watch out for Ryan or he'll blow your brains out. A few minutes later, and with Blame's gun back, we were barging into classrooms looking for lunches and stuffing them into backpacks that we had. Where do you think Ryan is? I asked, emptying out a backpack on the floor. Probably with the drones, Armin laughed. Yeah, screw him. We finished up looting the classroom and moved on to the next. After the 5th empty classroom, our backpacks were so heavy with food that we couldn't move, and decided that we would only go and loot once more. I reached for the doorknob, turned it, and I pushed the door open, and I felt the cold barrel of a shotgun, my old shotgun, pressed against my forehead. Gotcha. And then he pulled the trigger. A loud bang erupted through the room, making my ears ring, but I didn't get it. Why wasn't I dead? Ryan had shot me at point-blank range and somehow I wasn't dead on the ground. Ryan had a makeshift bandage wrapped around his forearm and had a nasty grin on his face, but this time he wasn't alone. He had 5 other people with him, probably survivors who were once his friends, wearing identical hooded cloaks, fashioned out of multiple jackets and shirts. Except one of them was a tallish man in his 50s or 60s, with neatly combed hair and a 3-piece business suit. Ryan said the next part slowly but very clearly. That shot was a blank and it didn't have any ammo in it. He quickly pulled the pump on the shotgun back and forth. But this one is real. Step in the room, all of you. He looked at the rest of the Algoma extermination team. We gave into his threat and we stepped into the room. What do you want, Ryan? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, the middle-aged man in the suit stepped forward and grinned like a total psychopath. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lawrence, CEO and operator of CORE, and the assistant leader of the Order of Kala Tagathliku. That's nonsense, dog, Blame said. Lawrence ignored the comment. It has come to my attention that you little craps have killed a number of the servants, and that is absolutely unacceptable. What the heck is Kala Tagathliku, Gramps? I screamed as Ryan stepped back with his shotgun at my sudden outburst. I slightly chuckled. Lawrence looked offended, but he didn't lose his confidence. Kala Tagathliku was there when the oceans were first created, and he will be here long after. He is the ruler of the ocean, the king of madness, overlord of the anglers and the drones, overseer of monsters and the all-powerful. Yeah, this guy is insane. Armin spoke up. So, Mr. Lawrence, what would you like us to do? Screw the air and make your little pets come back to life? Lawrence chuckled. It'll be much worse than that. Members of the Order, seize the sacrifices. Sacrifices? What the? Ryan and the other cult members grabbed us by the arms and pulled us out of the classroom, dragging us down the hallway and further away from the office. I considered screaming, but that's a hard thing to do when a 12 gauge is pressed against your back. The Order dragged us to the gym. My heart dropped as soon as I saw several drones open the gym doors from the inside. We entered the dark and damp gym. There were a dozen drones on either side of us that silently parted so that Lawrence and his cult members could drag us down. We were at the heart of the gym, which was now turned into a drone feeding area. And in the middle was an enormous monster, a 15-foot-tall warrior drone that growled and looked down at us. Oh crap, I whispered. Lawrence and the warrior drone seemed to talk in some throaty ancient language which sounded like a mix of Latin and gibberish. After the short exchange, Lawrence walked past us grinning and said to the cult members, "Tie them up." I thrashed, but again, most things are hard to do when a shotgun is pointed at your head. Ryan and his goons tied the three of us to one of the organic black stalagmites with yellow ropes, as the monsters nearby growled and squirmed in anticipation. "Hey!" I yelled back at Ryan as he walked out of the gym exit. "What?" "Screw you." Ryan silently grinned and shut the door and cut off all the lights coming in. In the darkness, my heartbeat went faster as the monsters growled and slowly, painfully inched closer. I felt one of the tendrils brush up against my leg as the monsters circled us. I tried to squeeze into the stalagmite that we were tied to, as I only had one question. Was this the end? Would we get ripped apart piece by piece until the military busted in and found the skeletons of 3 teenagers? Would Ryan win? Would everybody die? Of course not. Or at least, that was my hope. In the hallway, I heard the panicked screaming of the cult members and Lawrence yelling and gunshots firing out. I heard about a dozen running footsteps before one last gunshot went off, and a couple of hard thwacks before I heard the group of 3 running out further away. The drone stopped mere feet away from us and seemed to pay attention to what was going on outside of the gym. Without warning, a military veteran, Marlowe, kicked the doors down, firing my 12-gauge shotgun at the monsters with extreme accuracy. And a dozen of my classmates holding spears and knives were charging in. Marlowe took care of most of the monsters, blowing their heads off and reloading, and the rest of the kids slammed their spears into the stragglers. "Hurry up!" I screamed as Charlie cut the ropes with a small pocket knife. Once free, Blame, Armin, Charlie, and I ran for the door, and were the last ones out, just as Marlowe barricaded the door and the surviving drones leaped and screeched. I noticed 3 of my classmates tying Lawrence's arms behind his back and holding him captive, but I didn't have much time to worry about that because the barricade keeping the drones in was getting weak. "Go, go, go," Marlowe yelled, as our entire class ran down the hallway and back to our office in less than a minute. We locked the door and covered the glass and caught our breath. Several kids dumped out a handful of guns onto the table, supposedly stolen back from the cult. Charlie and RJ had tied up Lawrence to a spinning chair with 5 layers of duct tape, and a crapload of zip ties, and we put them in the maintenance closet. "What the heck just happened?" I said. "How did you know that we were trapped?" Marlo took out a pack of smokes and took a long puff. "There are security feeds in the office, you idiot. I saw you guys get trapped, so I made a plan. I, along with a dozen other kids, quietly followed the cultists to the gym, and we hid inside one of the classrooms right outside. When they were finished tying you up and came back out, I waited until they were right outside, and then I jumped out and beat the crap out of Ryan and took his shotgun, while the other little kids were shooting at me. But a few minutes of gun safety with a 50-year-old psychopath in a business suit isn't that great. Most of them got away. A few of us tied that guy up while the other half went to steal our precious guns back and help rescue you. By the way, here's your shotgun. Only has a few shells left in it, but we can make do with some broken glass and old shells." Marlo handed me my shotgun. "Thanks," I said. "Now, let's see what this crazy guy is all about," Marlo said, standing up from his chair and walking towards the office maintenance closet. He opened it up and grabbed the office chair with Lawrence duct taped to it and pulled him into Marlo's private office. "You," Marlo pointed to Blame, "come with us." "Sure," he replied, walking into the office. Marlo pulled up 2 chairs for us and positioned Lawrence on the opposite side of the desk, facing us. Lawrence remained strangely silent the whole time. We sat down facing him. "All right," Marlo said. "To begin this interrogation, I'll ask, what are you doing in this school? How did you even get in here?" Lawrence didn't answer, he only grinned. Marlo suddenly leaned over the table and slapped Lawrence in the face with the force to kill 1,000 people, causing me to jump back like I had just seen a jump scare in a horror movie. His fist inches away from Lawrence's face, Marlo asked again. "Now, I will ask you one more time and only once more. What are you doing in this school?" Lawrence finally looked up and spoke. "Like I said to your students, it has come to my attention that you little crabs have killed a number of the servants of the cult, and that is absolutely unacceptable." "Explain." "I don't understand a single thing you're saying to me. What the heck is Kla Tagathliku, and what do you mean by servants?" Kla Tagathliku and his servants, the anglers, are the overseers, the rulers of the caves and the oceans, the overlords of... No, I don't want any of that crap. Explain what these things are. Who even are you? Lawrence answered, "I am the CEO and operator of Core, and the senior leader of the Order." Marlo let out a frustrated laugh. "No, explain what the Order is. I mean, what is Kalat Tagathliku? Is it a sea monster, an alien, what?" "No," Lawrence replied, shaking his head. Kalat Tagathliku has been on Earth from the beginning, as a ruler of the oceans. He's an all-seeing deity who resides trapped and banished beneath the ocean floor. His servants, followers, and I are working to free him from the watery depths to let him rule over this Earth once more. That was when I knew that Lawrence was insane. "Okay," Marlo said. "Since I can't get anything sensible out of you, tell me, how did you get into the school? That black gunk is everywhere and bullets can't get through it. The servants and children let me in willingly. Nawalji let me in." "Is that what you call those things?" Marlo asked. "Yes," Lawrence replied. "Okay, that's it." We pulled Lawrence back into the maintenance closet and locked him in there and started organizing our game plan. There were 2 threats now. The stupid cult roaming around the enormous school, and the drones, or the Nawalji. They were probably much smarter than we thought, smart enough to open doors and make a path and to even communicate with select humans in some weird and ancient language. And seeing that Lawrence somehow got inside the school meant that there was some kind of exit or entrance. and if there's an entrance, then we can get out of here. Abandoning our old-fashioned spears and grabbing our guns back, Blame, Armin, and I prepared to go out and look through the entire school, searching for the way to get out of here that Lawrence had used to get in. We had made the same mistake last time, so this time, we brought along 4 more kids with us, each one of us having 2 weapons each, and Marlo keeping a close eye on the cameras, warning us. After checking the entire first floor to no avail, we began to search on the second floor. "Can't we just unload every gun that we have on one part of the wall?" I asked, walking up to the stairs that we fought the second ever drone on. "I don't know, that gunk is 3 feet thick. Fire might work better, but might burn the whole school down with us trapped inside." "Yeah," I said. We climbed up these slippery stairs and up to the second floor and found something very strange. Even though it had only been something like 20 hours since we had gone to the second floor, I noticed some very strange changes. Weird hieroglyphics were etched into the hardened parts of the black gunk on the wall, presumably by Lawrence's cult. They depicted very strange beings and monsters, such as a giant entity that resembled a tentacle, a gulper eel, a mosasaur-like leviathan, and what appeared to be huge swarms of unknown creatures. There were also strange letters written in what I can only assume was the language that Lawrence was speaking to the drones in. The drawings were fairly crude, but well enough that we could recognize what they were depicting. Using one of the staff walkie-talkies, I radioed Marlo and let him know about my findings. In the corner of the room, I noticed something strange squirming on the ground. "Hey, hold up," I said to the group. "I think there's something back here." "What'd you say?" Blame asked, stepping forward to get a better look. At the end of the hallway, from what I could make out, was a small creature about 2 feet long and snake-like, with 2 stumpy clawed arms and an undeveloped torso, and an anglerfish-like head on top. It looked like a smaller version of our normal drone, except with a snake-like tail, and it only crawled. The monster, which I realized was eating a rat the size of my entire hand, stopped tearing into the rat and looked at us. And let me tell you, that thing was fast. It let out a small screech and began to slither across the floor at probably 80 miles an hour, quickly approaching. It leaped directly at Blame's face, but he somehow swatted the thing with his arm as a baseball bat would. "What is it?" I screamed. "Somebody kill it." The monster quickly got back up, but someone from our class quickly took it out with a makeshift flamethrower made out of a can of WD-40 and a lighter. The monster instantly ignited and writhed for a few seconds before going still. Before I even had a chance to say, "What the?" we all heard what sounded like 1,000 snakes and tiny legs skittering at once, and about a dozen of those little things crawled out of the hallway intersection, seemingly coming out of a large hole in the black gunk, which resembled a much larger version of the inside of a beehive. That's when I realized that this place was a nest. We couldn't fight them all off, so we booked it and ran away. These tiny little creatures were somehow harder to take out than regular drones. The regular ones were large, easy to shoot, and fast, but not too fast that we couldn't target them. These things, which were presumably the larval stage of regular drones, were much, much faster, agile, smaller, and almost impossible to shoot. And to top that all off, we had run out of WD-40 in the only can that we were carrying. The swarm of larvae, that's what I decided to call the drones in the larval stage, chased us down the hallway, and one of them latched onto my back. As I said, we were running out of there, so I just grabbed the baby monster's tail and slammed it into the wall as hard as I could. It stopped moving after that. We got chased upstairs to the 3rd and final floor of the school and slammed the hallway doors shut, separating us and the monsters. Holy crap, that was. But just as we had started to calm down, the door suddenly burst open as all the monsters crashed into it and burst into the hallway. We ran, but I somehow slipped on the black gunk as everybody ran past me and I was left behind. Everybody was so focused on running themselves that nobody looked back as the monsters tailed us. I picked up my shotgun and let out a huge spray of buckshot, taking out 2 of the larvae. I quickly ran into a classroom and slammed the door shut and locked the door. The monsters berated the door as I slumped down and caught my breath. Sometime at the 2-hour mark of me staying trapped inside, the monsters had slithered away, presumably to hunt Blame and the rest of the group. Here I was, trapped in a classroom separated on the 3rd floor and farthest wing of the school. Though Marlo was looking at us through these security cameras, it would take him a while to devise a plan to come back, and I also lost my walkie-talkie while running. When I looked outside and saw that there were no more monsters in my direct sight, I grabbed my shotgun and got up. Even with a weapon, I knew that it was very, very dangerous to walk around the school alone, especially when it was swarmed by these creatures. But what made me wonder was, if there is a larval drone and warrior stage of them, what is the queen? I unlocked the door and slid it open and walked outside. It was eerily creepy when the lockdown first happened. I was with people when I walked through the empty school, but now that I was alone, it was enough to make me crap my pants. I decided to try to follow where I thought the class had gone, deeper into the school. I even saw the trail of blood, but it was black and oozing, so it must have been the blood of a drone or a larva the class that had killed. I turned and walked down the hallway going left toward the stairwell. I heard something large moving around in one of the classrooms. I had been in this exact situation too many times before, so I knew exactly what to expect from an empty classroom. But instead, Ryan stepped out of a room. He was dragging some unconscious kid, but he was alone, hopefully. When he saw me, he laughed gleefully and dropped the body, letting it slump onto the ground. He was probably trying to sacrifice the kid or something. I instantly snapped my shotgun into a firing position, aiming for the psychopath's chest. Before I could say anything, Ryan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small pistol that I didn't even know that he had and aimed it at my head. "Well, well, what do we have here?" Ryan said. "A challenge," I replied. "Put the gun down." "Oh yeah, or what?" Without warning, Ryan threw the gun at my face and I pulled the trigger as it smashed into my face. Ryan was already ducking and tackled me. I told the pain to get lost, then I kicked Ryan in the stomach. He caught my foot and slammed me to the ground and then punched me in the face. I quickly jumped up and smashed the butt of my shotgun into Ryan's face, probably smashing his nose right in. I kicked him before he could get up and I walked towards him. "I'm gonna do that," I said. And then I picked up my shotgun when Ryan had tripped me in the leg, and I fell on the floor flat on my face. He laughed as he got back up and dusted himself off, and then Ryan proceeded to beat the crap out of me, to the point where I almost fell unconscious. Where the heck is Marlo? I thought. Ryan dragged me down the hallway until somebody walked out of a classroom. It was Blame, alone, eating a sandwich that he somehow had. I slowly regained consciousness as I saw Blame. "Oh hey Blame, what are you doing here?" Blame replied, completely ignoring Ryan, who was pointing a gun at his face. "I don't know, dog. The class went ahead while I stayed behind, and I waited for you." "Oh, is that Ryan?" Ryan fired a shot just above Blame's head as a warning. "Get over here right now or I'll blow your brains out," he threatened. "Put your hands above your head." Blame casually replied, "You talk too much, dog," before fastballing his mayonnaise sandwich directly at Ryan's face and getting a direct hit. Ryan let go of my leg and I quickly crawled away from him, just as Blame pulled out his pistol and let out 4 shots at Ryan. Surprisingly, all the bullets missed Ryan himself, but one of them directly hit Ryan's gun, knocking it out of his hand into the other side of the hallway. "Oh crap," Blame said as I tried to get back up. "I'm out of ammo." Ryan grinned. The shotgun was all the way on the other side of the hallway where Ryan had first beaten the crap out of me, but there was no way that I could run and get it back before Ryan did. Blame threw his empty gun at Ryan's face before he also got tackled by Ryan. The two got into a fist fight and I ran and kicked Ryan off of Blame. Ryan suddenly got back up and he punched me in the face. Blame shortly after, and Ryan single-handedly beat the crap out of both of us. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was Ryan smashing the butt of the shotgun into my face. I could say that it was my will to live that kept me alive, but that would be fake and cliche. My best guess was that Ryan and his stupid cult needed to keep their sacrifices alive. I woke up in a dark room, probably a regular classroom near where we had gotten the living crap beaten out of us, and tied in two chairs, with Blame's chair tied on the opposite side of mine. "What is this?" I asked. Out of nowhere, a figure, Ryan, walked out of the shadows. He was grinning and was surrounded by several other cult members. Lawrence was not here, so... Oh crap. Lawrence walked into the classroom, also grinning. This meant that the cult had either wiped out Marlowe and his office fortress, which was unlikely considering the sheer firepower he kept in there, or they had somehow freed Lawrence by a distraction of some kind. Neither situation bode well for us. Again, as you know, my name is Lawrence, and we have decided to spare you from our required sacrifices in exchange for a favor. "What do you want, dog?" Blame asked. He continued, "To kill Marlowe and we'll set you free." I laughed. "You're insane, aren't you? That guy could break every bone in your body while naming them, and we couldn't even kill him if we tried. And also, no." Lawrence's smile disappeared. "So be it." They dragged us, tied us up outside. I guess the idiots were too lazy to drag us all the way to the gym, 3 floors down, so they left us in the hallway for the drones to find and eat us. "Hey dog," Blame said. "What?" I asked. "You think we getting out of this?" "Probably not." "Hey Lawrence, screw you," I yelled. The 50-something-year-old man stuck a middle finger out of the classroom doorway at us. Blame laughed. "When is the monster coming?" I asked. And that's when a large and dark shadow emerged from the hallway junction. A drone. It spotted us and growled, and that's when I panicked. Marlowe, where are you?" The monster took its time, slowly taking step after step towards us. And then I got an idea. "Blame, do you have a knife?" I asked. "Yeah, I just can't reach it." I used all of my strength to stretch my tight arms around the chair to grab the small switchblade, and it actually worked. I grabbed hold of it. The approaching drone either didn't notice the knife in my hand or it didn't care, because it didn't seem to react in any sort of way. I only had time to cut the ropes tying my arms, which was tough, so I did, and I cut the ropes on Blame's arms. The drone reached us and then growled and opened its mouth. When I stuck my hand down the toothy maw and stabbed the drone through the inside of the throat to its outer neck, I pulled the knife back, but in doing so, I got a few nasty scratches from the sharp teeth. The monster started thrashing, screeching, and spitting blood. "Heck yeah," I said. I stabbed it right in the head while it was close enough, and I cut the ropes tying my legs. I jumped up and cut Blame free. Just as Lawrence and Ryan realized what I was doing, Lawrence jumped out of the classroom along with the rest of the cult members. "No!" the monster screamed, and then he pointed at Blame and me, who were running the heck out of there. "Get them!" "Crap, crap, crap," I muttered. Ryan aimed my shotgun at me and fired, but it sucked to be him because I had already taken out all of the shells before he stole it from me. He grabbed the barrel of the shotgun and chased after me, swinging it like a baseball bat. The other cult members were following in fast pursuit. Ryan caught up to me and swung the shotgun's butt at me, but I managed to dodge it and punch Ryan's wrist, causing him to drop the shotgun. I immediately picked it up and started running again. "Thanks, idiot," I yelled. Blame and I turned the hallway and hid in the maintenance closet as the cult passed right by us. I laughed on the inside. We slowly stepped out, watching the cult, but they spotted us again and they turned to chase us, and we ran back down the hallway. But before we could reach the stairwell, a warrior drone emerged from the top of it, just as the cult caught up to us and surrounded us on the other side. "Oh, you're done, aren't you?" Ryan laughed. "Screw you in your face, dog," Blame yelled. We were surrounded. On one side there was a group of cultists, and on the other was the monster that the cultists worshipped. I wasn't going to choose anytime soon, so I just loaded a very, very special shotgun bullet that I had left in my pocket. Now, shotgun shells are usually filled with regular tiny buckshot, but the shell that I had was custom made by Marlowe. So basically, we had gotten some of the more solid chunks of broken glass, emptied the shells, and refilled them with it. And glass shotgun slugs are one of the scariest things to get shot by. The warrior angler was probably the biggest threat, so I fired one shot at its head. So now that I realize it, the safety was actually on. I only realized that a microsecond after I had fired, but that was very strange because I clearly heard a gunshot, and half of the warrior angler's head was missing. The monster slumped to the ground, revealing the man standing behind it, the man who had saved our butts. Marlowe. Finally! He was covered head to toe in black, drone blood, scratches all over his body, and holding a sawn-off double-barrel shotgun. "Well, what the heck do we have here?" he asked. The cult had an "oh crap" look on their faces. "Don't just stand there," Lawrence yelled. "Kill them." The few cult members with pistols stolen from us opened to fire on Marlowe, but combined with him constantly moving and jumping, and the lack of gun experience that they had, none of the bullets hit him. Marlowe shot one of the cultists straight in the chest, obliterating him. The cult members, clearly outgunned, ran off like a baby who just got caught cooking meth. Marlowe kicked the dead warrior drone in the head, making sure that it was dead. "What happened?" I asked. "Where did the class go?" "Your class is fine," Marlowe said. "Well, mostly. I saw you getting kidnapped, and I was going to go mess stuff up with that cult, but a bunch of those drones attacked the office. Lawrence also escaped. It was hard as heck to be the only one who could use a gun properly, but I took care of them all." I replied, "Oh great, did you see that? They were trying to sacrifice us again." "Yeah, I checked the cameras. Let's get back." Tired, bloody, and bruised, the three of us walked the 3 floors down and all the way back to the office. Just before the office came in sight, a smaller larva jumped out at me and wrapped around my hand. "Oh crap." I grabbed its tail and I slammed it into the wall, but not killing it. Lawrence raised his knife to stab it, but I stopped him. "Wait," I said. "We can take it back to study it." I checked and the drone larva was still breathing. We rushed the creature back to the office and locked it in a large and empty fish tank in the storage room, putting 2 bricks on the lid to weigh it down. Charlie, as expected, could barely contain himself. "Oh, no way," he said. "Is that alive? How did you get it? How did—" Blame, with his blood-covered and dirty hand, reached out and closed Charlie's mouth between his index finger and thumb. "Shush, child," Blame said. "We'll take questions later, dog." "But," Charlie exclaimed, swatting Blame's hand away. We all shut up as the drone larva slowly came back to consciousness and jumped against the glass. "Holy crap," I screamed. But the glass didn't break. We had specifically gotten 3 extra glass panes broken from the windows and doors and had duct taped them to the fish tank for extra strength. The small creature growled and started pacing around in the tank, slithering on all surfaces to try and find an escape. "So, what do you think about it?" I asked Charlie. Charlie began his science rant. "So this thing looks like the first stage of the drone life cycle, like a wasp larva. It has a few tiny tentacles and arm stumps, so I'm assuming that the tail eventually falls off as it gets older, like a tadpole. So, assuming that these drones, like all other animals that go through a life cycle like this, are reptiles, cephalopods, amphibians, or an entirely new colony species, something lays the eggs that the larvae hatch from. And since the drones are a colony species, with a larva, drone, and warrior stage in the colony pyramid, it would be reasonable to assume that some kind of king or queen drone species is laying the eggs and controlling the colony that lives in our school. So some kind of queen, the overlord of all the drones in the school, is doing this whole operation." Marlowe wiped some drone blood off his face. "So how do we kill this queen?" Charlie replied, "You probably can, but usually if a queen or any colony species dies, the entire colony will most likely die along with her. In any colony, the queen is the most important member, so if the queen is in any sort of danger, the entire colony will come to protect her. And besides, the queen is probably in the deepest, most secure location in the area." "So what the heck do we do if we can't kill it?" I asked. Charlie shrugged. "I mean, the police or frankly anybody can't get in or out of the school, so we're on our own." Marlowe grinned. "I have a plan." Apparently Marlowe's plan was to camp out in the classrooms and hallways of the farthest reaches of the school for 2 nights, in order to map out the whole area, learn the patterns and behaviors of the drones, and gather as much information about them as we could, in order to eventually find a way out of the school and kill the Phantom Queen. Marlowe was insane, so I took his plane with 2 tons of salt. In preparation for the mission, the Algoma extermination team walked through the hallways of the school searching for supplies. I found some more broken glass that we could use as a substitute for buckshot, and I put it into a bag. Without warning, Blame started screaming and jumped back from one of the drawers in the classroom. "What the?" I screamed, turning and aiming my shotgun where I had seen Blame jump from. When I saw nothing for a few seconds, I sighed and asked, "What is it?" Blame replied, still screaming, "There is a spider the size of my hand." I sighed again. "All right, but..." I was interrupted when RJ screamed, "Holy balls, there's something in the closet," 10 times louder than Blame did. "What?" I asked. "What is it?" "No, seriously, man. There really is something in the closet." I silently walked over to the other side of the classroom and opened the closet, pointing my shotgun at whatever was inside. To my surprise, it was a girl, no older than 15, with dark skin, curly hair tied into a bun, and wearing a blue jacket and black pants. She wasn't dead because I could clearly see her raising her hands in a surrendering position. "What the heck?" I murmured. The girl suddenly jumped out and stuck a 10-inch knife-like glass shard halfway wrapped with duct tape an inch away from my throat. "Yo, dog!" Blame screamed. Everybody pointed their weapons at the girl who screamed. "Who are you?" "We're survivors," I yelled. "Now can you get that away from my neck?" The girl slowly retracted the sharp glass shard. "Okay, then why do you have guns? How do you even have guns?" Principal Marlowe gave us some. He always had some in his emergency kit. Our class survived and fought off the drones and then met Marlowe, and ever since, we've been staying at his office with another class. The girl's eyes lit up. "You mean that you guys are a group of survivors and you have weapons?" "Yeah," I said. "We're looking for food and more survivors." So a few minutes later, the girl was in our office fortress talking to Marlo and us. Apparently the girl's name was Amy Buck. I hadn't really talked to her before the infamous lockdown since she was a grade below us, but I had seen her a few times before in the hallway. She was trapped in the school from the start of the lockdown like the rest of us, and her class had been taken by the drones and taken deeper into the hive. She was the only one to escape. Buck, Amy preferred to call her by her last name, survived alone in the school, hiding in lockdown classrooms and eating old lunches from kids' bags. She had traveled through the whole school searching for food and water. When we had entered the classroom, Buck had intentionally hidden, because according to her, a group of older kids and one older guy, the cult, had tried to kidnap her. So that's the story of Buck, the girl that we found in the closet. Marlo said, "Hey kid, we're going on a little mission to sleep out in the school for 2 nights to figure out more about the drones and any potential exits. You know this place, right? Where the drones go and which places to avoid." "Yeah," Buck replied. "It's a mess out there, but I know the place inside out." "So how about you come with us on that 2-night excursion? We need somebody who knows the place like the back of their hand so we can survive. Like you." Buck considered it for a moment and then said, "Sure, whatever it takes to get out of here." And so it was set. We packed our bags with food, water, extra ammo, extra clothes and jackets to sleep on, and flashlights for places where the drones had completely covered the lights. Marlo was definitely coming with us. He had made the mistake of staying at the office twice already, and both times almost ended up with us getting eaten. So for stealth and mobility, only 5 of us were going. Blaine, Buck, Armin, Marlo, and myself. And when I asked Marlo what we would do if we were ambushed in the night, he just replied, "We'll mess stuff up." I like that plan. RJ and Charlie were going to be in charge while we were gone, although I had some serious doubts about whether that was a good idea. Our game plan was to go around all the hallways on each floor, mapping it out and finding any weak spots or entrances to where the drones were coming from. We would look around for the first floor for 7 hours, then camp out in one of the classrooms on the 2nd floor. "All right," Marlo said, looking at the entire team. "We're going to go out there and we'll kick butt. If you want to get out of here, you better do as I say. Let's go mess some stuff up, you understand?" The class let out a cheer. Marlo turned to Charlie. "But you, don't mess anything up. I need my office." And with that, we set out into the hallways for a 2-night trip in this monster-infested school. "So, any places to avoid?" I asked Buck as we walked down the hallways. "Oh yeah," she replied, "lots of them. Especially the gym, the locker rooms, and the basement. They keep going to the basement for some reason." We busted into classrooms, checking each one for monsters, survivors, or that stupid cult, while checking the classrooms without monsters on the school's floor plan that we had turned into our map. In the next classroom, I opened the door and slowly slid it open, only for a giant warrior drone to jump out and pin me to the ground, bringing the fight into the hallway lined with rusty lockers. "Help!" I screamed as my shotgun was knocked away. The thing was, in every sense of the word, giant. It must have been over 8 feet tall and a body larger than an alligator's. Marlo fired a shotgun shell from his double barrel, but the gigantic monster barely seemed to react, only turning its head and screeching at him. I slipped a knife out of my waistband and sliced a clean cut right through the warrior drone's throat, spraying black blood on my face. Buck surprisingly stabbed the monster with the spear that we had, impaling it through the lungs, if these things even had lungs, but the monster barely reacted. It swung one of its spider-like legs out, knocking away everyone. I managed to get out of the warrior drone's clutches, reaching for the shotgun. "Christopher," Marlo yelled, "give me the 50. I turned, and beside Marlo's backpack he had taken off was the old 50 cal rifle that Armin had been carrying for him. I grabbed it and slid it over to Marlo as the warrior drone turned to me and charged, In a matter of seconds, Marlowe chambered around and loaded the rifle, aimed and fired. And let me tell you, a normal shotgun blast or a pistol shot is loud as heck indoors, but a 50 cal inside is like a nuclear blast right next to your ear. Only Marlowe was partly okay because he was wearing foam earplugs. The monster's head literally exploded into a million chunks as the bullet kept on going through the classroom wall, through the desks, and probably stopped somewhere in the concrete walls. Once my ears had stopped ringing, I yelled, "Holy crap! Did you see that?" Blame yelled. "Dog, did you see that? That monster's head exploded." "Yeah, thanks, I'm okay," I said sarcastically. "Holy crap, kid, you good?" Marlowe asked. "Yeah, I'm fine." I lifted one arm to reveal a bloody gash. Mostly. I wrapped the wound in a bandage and we marked that classroom unsafe and that it was regularly occupied by drones. As we walked down the hallways continuing our search, we passed by the gym doors. I shuddered at the sight of it. Not because that was where I had gotten bullied by Ryan before the lockdown, but because it was where we had to rescue Armin with only a few spears, and where Lawrence and his group had tied us up. "Let's not go in there," Armin said. I could tell that he shared my same feelings. "Heck no," Buck said. "I saw at least 15 other guys get taken there. Why don't you guys want to go in there? Did something happen?" "Oh, it's nothing," I said. "It's just that we had to save Armin from becoming drone food, and we were kidnapped by a brain-dead cult and an old man." We turned in the hallway going right. The only hallway in that junction looked really creepy. It was completely pitch black with zero lighting and dripping with drone gunk. It kept going down to where I remembered was the library on the first floor. "Do we still go there?" I asked Marlowe. He took a while to think and then said, "Yeah, we go there, but stay frosty." Holding all our weapons, we went down the hallway with flashlights taped to the barrels of our guns. When we had walked a good 10 meters into the darkness, I could just make out a light at the front, where the hive section ended. Suddenly, I heard something crash in the back. It was coming from one of the classrooms behind us. And then I heard multiple crashes and I turned. Behind us were at least 9 drones, all crawling on the ground, on the walls, and even on the ceiling. There were way too many of them, and there was no way that we could fight them all off in the cramped hallway. "What do we do?" I yelled. "Run, dog," Blame screamed. I looked back and one of the monsters had gotten a hold of Blame's leg. I fired a shot at it, and the one holding Blame retracted as it was hit with a spray of glass from the slug. I grabbed his arm and lifted him up. "Let's get the heck out of here." We all ran down the hallway into the library and we slammed the door behind us. The thin wooden door creaked as all the drones slammed into it, trying to knock it down. "Christopher," Marlowe said. "Yeah," I asked. He pointed to a large metal bookcase beside the door. "Help me knock that thing down. We need to barricade the door." We all pushed the bookcase down onto the door, barricading it. We put chairs, desks, shelves, and other stuff against it until we were sure that the drones wouldn't come in. After a while, they stopped banging on the door but never left. "Are we trapped?" I asked. "Probably, dog," Blame replied. "It's a sleepover." Buck sighed. "Yeah, they can stay out in front of the door for a long time. I've seen it happen before. Nasty little buggers. We were going to camp out anyway, right? We could just stay here for the night and then figure out something tomorrow." We all agreed that it was a good plan. After checking the entire library to make sure that it was clear of any monsters or cult members, Blame and I started a little campfire in the middle of the unlit library, surrounding it with a circle of paper soaked with Blame's urine to keep the fire from spreading, and burning the whole school down. Don't even ask. The library always had an electricity problem before the whole lockdown happened, so besides our flashlights and campfire, there was nothing to really light the area up. "Hey Marlowe, tell us one of your Afghan stories," Armin asked, as we all sat around the campfire. Nah, he replied. I got something better. Don't tell this to anyone, this is classified. When I was much younger, I was flying overseas on a classified mission in the Antarctic Ocean when I crashed. But I didn't crash into any normal place. I actually crashed into some ancient city, one not built by human hands, but it was in Antarctica. It was somehow warm there, as if somebody had put some enormous heater in the sky. I stayed there for 5 years trying to find rescue when I met some weird kids. I mean, these kids had superpowers. I mean, one of them, Doug, could move things with his mind. Like that 11 girl. I don't know what that is, and there was one other kid named Joshua who had immortal regenerative abilities and telekinesis. I thought it was BS until they showed me. There were also strange monsters in that city too. Nothing like the drones though, they were like giant masses of tentacles and eyes. It's weird stuff. There was also one guy, George, who was some super deity in human form protecting Joshua, who had brought the kids to Antarctica to escape this god named Hastur. They had this huge fight, and after 5 years, I was finally able to cross some kind of portal, and I ended up in a town somewhere in Oregon. Those kids also came back, but they were only gone for a few days, maybe a week even. As a token of thanks for protecting those kids, George gave me this. Marlowe pulled a necklace out of his pocket, which was actually his military dog tag, which read, Marlowe Jones, U.S. Marine and Air Force pilot. But the strange thing was, the dog tag glowed blue, the light emanating from it, giving it a cool look. No way, is that real? Yeah, Marlowe said. That George guy had superpowers, and he said that he was some kind of alien deity from another plane of existence. After Marlowe's allegedly true story, we put out the fire and then went to sleep. I woke up when I heard Blame yell, What the heck, dog? I stood up. The library was mostly dark except for about a dozen people surrounding us holding torches. Our group backed into a wall. One man stepped out who was, of course, Lawrence. Good evening, gentlemen, he turned to Buck. And ladies. I understand our last meeting didn't end up in the way that I would have liked, so do refrain from any resistance. I noticed that one of the cult members, Ryan, had a duffel bag filled with our weapons. If we could get to those, we could blast and fight the heck out of the situation, but 3 of the kids had guns. So, what the heck do you want? Marlowe asked. You little craps have been messing up my plan ever since I got in this place. So we're going to end that today. The Order is officially sacrificing these wrongdoers to the Great King. It's this cult BS again, I whispered to Blame. Fine, Marlowe said, exasperated. You win, you can sacrifice us to your cult stuff. My jaw dropped, but in the dimly lit library, I saw Marlowe wink at me and grin. Marlowe was one of the most tough and crafty people that I had ever known, and if what he said about being trapped in an ancient alien city full of monsters, then this wouldn't faze him. Lawrence was too stupid either, so he wasn't going to make any moves until Marlowe was completely tied up, since he was the main threat. 2 of the cultists began to tie Marlowe's hands together with rope, but just before they could tighten the knot, Marlowe suddenly jumped free, grabbed a nearby pencil and stabbed one of the cultists with it like he was John Wick. The closest cultist with a gun shot at Marlowe, but he turned and used the other kid as a human body shield. He threw the body to the bulk of the cult, knocking them over. Ryan tried to throw a right hook at Marlowe, but ended up flying across the room like a football at the Super Bowl, smashing his head on the bookshelves. One of the cultists grabbed my hair and tried to wipe a knife blade against my throat, but I elbowed him in the stomach, then stabbed him in the shoulder with his own knife. While the rest of the class were fighting off the cult, I jumped for the duffel bag filled with the guns and snagged it. The cult, once they had realized how overpowered they were, ran off like babies. Yeah, and stay away. Once we had all calmed down and regained our senses, we all packed our stuff up and continued our 2-day trek through the school. Because as Marlowe put it, Good soldiers never quit. The second floor was the floor that we had explored the least since the lockdown, since our school was on the third floor and the office was on the first floor, so we never really had any need or reason to go up there. I always wondered where the drones took their dead colony members, and that day was the day that I found out. Stop! Buck suddenly stopped the class. This is where the drones dumped their dead bodies. We slowly turned the corner and looked at a lone drone, dragging a gigantic dead warrior drone, the one that we had fought on the first floor the day before. After much struggling, the common drone dragged the body into the classroom and just dumped it in there. It suddenly stopped walking, then without warning snapped its head at us and screeched, giving me the worst jump scare that I ever had. Blaine pulled out his pistol and let out 7 shots at the warrior drone's center mass, killing it almost instantly. Holy crap, I said. Should we go check that out? The team walked towards the classroom and I looked inside the open door, then caught whiff of the worst smell that I had ever smelled in my 15-year life. Dog, Blaine yelled. The heck is that? My God, that smells awful. Inside the classroom was an enormous pile of dead drones, of all shapes and sizes, that our group had single-handedly killed. I guess I had improperly calculated the sheer amount of drones that I had killed over the 4 to 5 day ratio of the lockdown, because there had to be at least 30-something of them in there, all filling the classroom to the brim. They were all in different states of decomposition. Some were mere skeletons with rotting flesh, and some looked like they had been killed hours ago. Holy crap, Marlowe exclaimed. I didn't know we killed this much. This is where the drones dump the dead bodies, Buck said. They're pretty smart. I've actually seen them talking to the cultists in some pig Latin, or some kind of gibberish, but they're definitely not as smart as us though. One of the bigger drones, the warrior drone that I was talking about, slightly moved and I jumped back. Blame started laughing, and that's when I realized that Blame did what Blame does. Blame had somehow snuck into the classroom and hidden under the body, using it as some kind of demented puppet to scare the crap out of us. His nose must be disabled or something, because he acted like he wasn't smelling a thing. Come on, Blame, he almost shot you, I said. Hey, it's cool, dog. We continued on, going around all the hallways, doing what we had come out here to do. I thought about the last time that I had heard from the outside world, the time when I got news from my Uncle Roger a few weeks ago. Apparently Uncle Roger, who was a marine biologist living in a seaside town, was researching some weird decapitated sea monster found at the seafloor. That was the last time that I heard from him, so I guess he was pretty busy. From what I knew, Blame's parents were drunk all the time, so he could do whatever he wanted to do whenever. After searching through most of the second floor, we had one more place to check, the staff lounge. I slowly slid the door open and instantly jumped back, remembering the mistake that I had made the previous day. What the? I mumbled. The place was mostly empty except for a few overturned furniture pieces and an old sofa. A coffee machine from the 80s lay at the table. Where do we check first? Armin asked. Wherever the F you think is best, Marlowe said. I need a beer. The staff lounge, in the worst way possible for the situation, was pretty big with 3 rooms connecting to the main lounge. While Marlowe searched for that well-needed cold one in the midi-fridge, I walked into one of the rooms and instantly fell through, because the ground in that room was either very weak or there was a hole, but I fell through anyway. Since it was only a 6-foot drop, I didn't really feel any pain, but I fell right into a puddle of that black goo. I had somehow fallen into a classroom right below us, one we had somehow missed on the first floor. The whole place was turned into a hive with black structures resembling tunneled stalagmites created by the drones. I was stuck, sinking into these shallow goo like running shoes on a rainy day. As soon as I fell in, I heard a fast burst of movement, as several or more creatures slid out from the goo. Help! I fell through the floor. Blame, Armin, and Buck walked to the hole and looked down at me. Need help? What does it look like? One of them called Marlowe and lowered a rope down the broken part of the floor, and I grabbed it. I felt something slither and brush against my leg, and I screamed. Oh, heck no. Before taking out my knife and stabbing the thing wrapping itself around my leg, which was a small, snake-sized drone larva, the creature shrieked and slowly went limp. Ah, I yelled, pull me up. Just as they had started to pull me up with the rope, a larva leaped out of the black goo and clamped onto my shoulder. I immediately let go of the rope and grabbed the thing, and slammed it into the wall and stabbed the heck out of it. Catch. Blame threw a large hunting knife down the hole and I caught it, as 2 drone larvae jumped out at me and I sliced them both in one slash, making the most bad moment of the lockdown. Hearing all the commotion, a large drone busted down the door and screeched as it saw me. Pull me up, I screamed. With one last tug, my classmates pulled me up and I was pulled back to the 2nd floor. Marlowe rushed into the room holding a week-old beer and a shotgun, and he blasted the heck out of the drone in the classroom downstairs. Once the adrenaline had slowed down enough, I could form words again. I almost died. Yeah, you almost did, but you didn't, eh? Marlowe said. Couldn't argue with that. Marlowe dropped a makeshift grenade, a can of WD-40 duct taped to a gasoline-soaked rag, into the classroom, and blew up the nest below when we walked out of the teacher's lounge. While walking in the middle of the hallway, checking classrooms and checking off which places hadn't been infested, we heard some talking come from a classroom that we hadn't checked yet. It was about 15 meters out in front of us, and the person talking sure as heck wasn't us, because everybody in our group was with us and I recognized that voice. It was, without a doubt, the voice of Lawrence. He was probably talking to a drone in that mumbo-jumbo language. Yes, I know these stupid kids keep messing around and keep messing everything up. We need to establish this for the rise of the king. Don't worry, we'll take care of them. Lawrence nodded and walked out of the classroom with Ryan and walked out of sight, probably going back to his headquarters. All armed, we went into the classroom where Lawrence was just talking to the drone and found nothing. No one was there. Like there wasn't even a single sign of a drone or another monster. No tracks, no moved objects, nothing. How was it possible? We had clearly heard Lawrence talking to somebody or something and had clearly heard that something reply. And the possibility that we were all going crazy and hearing the same thing was very low. It wasn't like a 500-pound drone could just disappear. It also wasn't like we could do anything about it. So we collectively agreed to. Nah, this is too weird for me. And we continued, finishing off the 2nd floor. Deciding where to camp out was a struggle. It was hard to find a place that wasn't covered in black goo or bodies, and a place that was also on the 3rd and last floor. When I opened the door, just like a repeat of the day before, a huge drone leaped out like a predatory cat, and I dodged and placed a shotgun round deep in its head. Is it ever going to stop? Probably not, Marlowe said. Now keep on going, we need to find a place to sleep. After much searching, we settled down in one of the larger classrooms, one without any of the things that I mentioned. We started a small fire in the middle of the classroom and sat around it. The warm light of the fire cast eerie shadows along the walls, giving the creepiest vibe in the world. Marlowe, have you ever heard of this cult before? Their leader, the person they're trying to summon? I asked, eating an expired bag of chips. No, he said, but I think I have a pretty good idea on what this Kala-Tagathliku fellow is. Really? I asked. Yeah, he continued. So when I was stuck on that Antarctica alien city, that George guy was talking about the deities and mentioned one that took up residence on Earth, but was trapped deep beneath the ocean floor. I think he mentioned Kala-Tagathliku when he was talking about it, Dang, I wish I could talk to him again, he was so weird. That city, what did the creatures there look like? I asked. Oh, some of them were like tiny scorpion monsters and others were giant masses of rotting flesh, spider legs, tentacles, and eyes. That's so interesting, but I'm getting tired. By the way, thanks for saving my butt so much, Marlo. Anytime, kid. I turned around, put the fire out, and went to sleep beside Blame, who was talking about weed in his dreams. I woke up and the classroom that we had camped out in was silent. Everybody was asleep, including Marlo, but not me because I was an early riser. It was about 6 in the morning, but it was good to get an early start since it was the last day that we would explore and clear the 3rd floor. I shook Blame. "Oh, what?" he asked groggily. "Wake up. Let's go." After waking everybody in our group, we ate breakfast, some granola bars and a bunch of expired chips, and walked outside. The first thing we did was check on the classroom that we had heard the weird disembodied voice in and clear the room. "There's nothing here," Buck said. "Of course not," I replied. Whatever Lawrence was talking about probably hauled his happy butt right out of here. One of the classrooms, a large chemistry room with beakers and weird liquids, was up for easy grabs. A few flammable liquids and acidic liquids could be turned into bombs, and we raided the heck out of the place. While I was stuffing a container of bleach into my supply bag, something about 500 pounds jumped outside, presumably from these ceiling vents or somewhere else, and began crawling on the floor in a dog-like fashion. It scared the absolute crap out of me. "What is that?" I yelled. "What is what, player?" Blame asked. "There's something outside." I picked up my shotgun. That's when the thing outside passed right by the door. To nobody's surprise, it was a regular warrior drone, dragging some poor unconscious sap down the hallway to the gym. Our group stepped outside with a stupid amount of firearms, and that's when we found the problem. Is that thing carrying a kid? To answer Marlo's question, the thing turned around, holding the kid in its tendrils. This one must have been smarter because it knew that we couldn't shoot it with the risk of hitting the kid. While holding the kid, the warrior drone approached us growling. We only had one spear left and a few knives, the biggest one being the Bowie knife that Blame had thrown to me back when I had fallen through the floor. "I'll take this one," Marlo volunteered. We cheered as he picked out the Bowie knife as the warrior drone leaped at him. I distinctly remember somebody yelling, "Holy crap!" I think it was me, honestly, as the monster swatted Marlo away as he slashed at it. Marlo got one good stab into the creature before he was knocked away. I grabbed the spear and threw it at the monster, narrowly missing the kid and hitting the thing in the side. While it was wounded, I took out a pistol and stuck it against the drone's neck, and fired 3 shots. The monster didn't die immediately like I had hoped. Instead, it froze for a few seconds, then went limp and dropped the kid. "Is it dead?" Blame asked. And then the thing talked. It partly spoke in very broken and distorted English, but I was able to roughly make out all the words. It said out loud, "Claw to Goth the Q will rise again." I immediately recognized the words as part of that mumbo-jumbo language that the cultists in the drone spoke, and especially the words, "Claw to Goth the Q." Then with surprising force, the dying warrior drone grabbed me with one of its crab-like legs and flung me across the hallway, and I landed right on my ankle. I screamed out in pain. Now that the warrior drone had dropped the unconscious kid, what is it with drones and unconscious kids? Everybody obliterated the thing with our many guns. The bullet-riddled body of the warrior drone fell and slumped against the floor. What the heck does "Kala to Goth the Q will rise again" mean? I asked to no one in particular, and then the pain came back. I had sprained my ankle pretty badly. I could visibly see that it was turning purple, something that I really didn't want. Well, screw me, I think I broke my ankle. Let me take a look, Marlo said, pushing through the small group, and he took a look at my ankle, which was swollen to heck. Nah, it's just a sprain, you'll be fine. Can you walk? I stood up and instantly fell back down with the pain. No, I can't put pressure on it. Well, you're going to need to walk. And I think I saw a pair of crutches in one of the classrooms. Marlo got up and walked to one of the rooms and came back out with a bloody pair of crutches. I got 'em, he said, but I had to steal them from a dead body. Crap, there's blood all over my shirt. Thanks, Marlo, I said. I took a crutch and I put it under my left arm, and I swapped my shotgun for Blame's 9mm, which I carried in my right hand. You good, dog? He asked. Yeah, I replied. Let's just finish this. We started down the hallway and finished the rest of the place off. There was nothing too out of the ordinary, but we did observe from hidden spots how the drones communicated with each other, where they all went at nighttime, how they hunted, how smart they were, and the such. It was finally over. The long, grueling, and stupid mission was over. We walked back downstairs in silence, killing a few drones along the way. Walking down the stairs with crutches was really tough, but I was able to manage, barely. As we walked in front of the office, Blame yelled, home sweet home. But then I noticed something strange. It was completely silent. This isn't right. It's completely quiet. Marlo put on a serious expression. Yeah, stay here, I'll go check it out. He put in his earplugs and walked inside with his 50 cal and yelled, What the? Are you good? Buck asked. Yeah, but come check this out. Marlo opened the door and I crutch hobbled over with the rest of the group to see the tank that we had kept the baby warrior drone in was completely shattered, the glass everywhere on the floor. Holy crap, I said. Did the drone escape? Marlo picked up a glass shard and looked at it. Probably. It didn't kill everyone though, since there isn't any blood on the floor. Stay frosty. Staying frosty was a pretty hard thing for me to do with a sprained ankle. I tried to balance my pistol in my right hand with the crutch under my left shoulder, aiming for anything that could possibly give a brick a jump scare. We all stormed into the office FBI style and cleared the front area. I found a trail of black goo on the floor, leading somewhere deeper into the office. Hello, Marlo yelled. Anyone here? Charlie warily stepped out of Marlo's private office and said, Oh man, thank God you guys are here. The rest of the class is in the private office with me. What happened? I asked. Well, Charlie replied, a day after you guys left, the larva, which got a lot bigger, escaped and crawled into one of the vents or some other place. We were panicking, and we only panicked even more when the grown-up warrior drone suddenly reached down from the broken ceiling tiles and grabbed a hold of RJ. He almost got taken, but one of us shot the thing with a pistol. We didn't kill it though. It's still probably there. Well, that was a thing to note. The drone larva could grow up to an adult in 10 hours. Without warning, we heard something crash above us inside the ceiling tiles. Go! Marlo yelled at Charlie. Get back inside. A set of crawling footsteps made a circle above us as Marlo took out his pistol and fired into the ceiling. The warrior drone above us skittered around and suddenly stopped, leaving no sign of its last location. We were screwed, and without warning, the warrior drone suddenly dropped from the ceiling into the ground, landing on our men. Oh crap, he yelled, trying to push the monster off. Marlo kicked the monster off of our men and fired several shots into it, but it was way too fast. It crawled over the office counter and leaped again, hitting me in the face. I was instantly knocked over and pinned down onto the ground. I put my entire pistol arm into its mouth, a grave mistake. Before the son of a thing could bite down and sever it, I fired the entire magazine into the creature's throat and it reeled back, choking. "Now, Marlowe," I yelled, covering my ears. As everybody covered theirs, Marlowe fired off a 50 cal round, instantly obliterating the monster. Some of the residue splattered across my face, and that was when I knew that Blame was right when he said that drone guts tasted sweet. Screw me, because the guts surprisingly tasted like Jolly Ranchers. "All right," Marlowe said. "Come out now." The rest of the classes hiding in Marlowe's private office walked out, shaken from all the commotion. While the rest of us stayed in Marlowe's private office for a discussion, the other poor kids stayed in the main office and just stood around, with broken glass and drone guts. "Why are we here?" I asked. "To discuss," he said. "Now what did we learn from that 2-day trip?" "Well, the main hive of drones is in the basement, so the queen must be there, right?" Buck said. "Good thinking, Buck," Marlowe snapped. "It's time to end this." I was surprised. "You mean storm in there and kill the queen? I mean, whatever it is." "You got it, Christopher," he said. "It's time to end this. Food is running out, and so is ammo." The next day, we devised a plan. All the members of our class and the other surviving class would get as many weapons as possible, storm the hive and throw multiple bombs that we had fashioned out of WD-40, lighter fluid, flammable objects, and assorted chemistry explosive chemicals. The bombs that Marlowe had MacGyvered had a blast range of 55 gallons of gasoline, which is a lot, and the plan was to storm the basement hive and blow the place up, taking out the entire drone colony. After collecting the necessary weapons and supplies, we went to sleep, preparing for the big day, the day that we would escape this place. When I woke up, there was nobody but Blame and me in the office. "Where is everyone?" I asked. By that time, my sprained ankle had healed greatly, so I could walk comfortably without crutches. I stood up. "There's no one here, dog," Blame said. I looked beside where I had been sleeping, and there was a note, written in a sloppy Sharpie. It read, "Your entire class has been captured. Surrender now and accept getting sacrificed, or else your entire class will die. If you take us up on our offer, come to the library, or else. Lawrence." That piece of crap. "No way," I said. "The whole class got kidnapped." I had no idea how the cultists had managed to tie Marlowe up, but I assumed they did it while everybody was sleeping. They hadn't taken our weapons because we had stashed them in a huge locked filing cabinet hidden in the maintenance closet. That was when I got an idea. A very stupid but worthy idea. If Lawrence saw or heard the drone colony's queen getting killed, he and the other cultists would run back down to stop us, leaving Marlowe to figure something out, while we also killed the queen and ended all of this. "Hey, Blame." "Yeah, dog," he asked. "Grab the guns. Let's go F stuff up." Blame and I collected nearly all the guns and bullets and knives that we had, arming to the teeth like those police officers in Hot Fuzz. I had 2 shotguns, one strapped to my back and the other in my hands, and 2 pistols strapped to my waistband with a giant knife. Blame was carrying the 50 cal because, believe it or not, it was simple enough for him to operate freely. He also had multiple weapons and a rifle like me, and we both carried 2 jugs full of the explosive concoction, with the 50-foot range. We had several extra-large Molotov cocktails duct-taped to spears for taking out multiple drones at a time. The insane amount of weapons that we carried would slow us down, but were necessary if we wanted to come out of this ordeal alive. "Blame, you ready to mess stuff up?" "Heck yeah, dog," he replied. We found 2 pairs of sunglasses in Marlowe's secret whiskey drawer, so our eyes didn't get burned from the explosion, and also because they looked pretty bad. After making the last preparations, the 2 of us walked out of the classroom, heading for the basement on the other side of the first floor. As soon as we walked out, a huge drone jumped out from the corner, as if it knew what we were planning. I fired my shotgun and blew the monster's head clean off. "Holy crap," I said. We kept walking, and I heard multiple growls coming from a dark, unlit hallway on our right, and saw multiple warrior drones blocking us off from the behind, pushing us forward. "Blame, I need the lighter." "Just a sec," Blame said, reaching into his pocket. "Crap, I can't reach it." After 1 tense second, Blame managed to reach into his back pocket through all the armor and gear that he was carrying, and he handed it to me, just as the warrior drones made their move. I lit the rag of the Molotov cocktail attached to the spear, and I threw it at the closest monster, blowing it to heck and back. The Molotov cocktail, which was bigger than a normal one, blew up the one that it hit and killed it and set the other warrior drones on fire, and we quickly took care of them with our guns. I reloaded it and gave Blame a high five. Out of nowhere, Ryan and his goons, Lawrence was strangely missing from the group, appeared out of nowhere, armed with makeshift clubs and glass shards. When Ryan saw Blame and I armed to the teeth and past the gums, he crapped his pants, figuratively and literally. He made a pathetic attempt to even out the final battle and said, "Hey, you babies, drop your weapons and square up." "Okay," I said. "I just gotta take this off first." I winked at Blame and reached for my backpack and casually pretended to take it, and all the weapons attached to it off as I looked down, pretending that I couldn't see Ryan slowly coming at me with a knife. Just as he brought the weapon down on my face, I caught his arm and quickly whipped out my pistol and shot the heck out of him and the rest of the cultists. Ryan choked and let out one last, "Screw you," and he went down. "Oh, that feels good," I said. Blame and I continued to the basement and stood right in front of the doors going down. We both took one cliché gulp and opened the door and stepped inside and down the stairs to the creepy basement that I remembered. The basement was dimly lit like most of the school, but significantly darker due to the gunk covering the whole place. The basement was the place with the most black gunk that I had ever seen, appearing like a gigantic hive of some sort. The closest thing that I could compare the place to was the alien hive in Aliens 1986. Out of nowhere, a huge drone that was camouflaged in the wall leaped out at us and grabbed onto Blame. "No, dog," he screamed. I kicked the drone away, fired a few shots at it, and lit a Molotov. I threw it at the thing and sent a huge 2-meter explosion of fire everywhere, lighting up the surrounding area, narrowly avoiding Blame. "Get up, man," I said, grabbing Blame's hand and pulling him up. The flames from the Molotov cocktail lit up the area much better than the lights above, and lit the darkest corners of the basement. And to our utter surprise, there were at least a dozen of the biggest warrior drones that I had ever seen, all crawling on the walls in the hive to get to us. "Blame?" I asked. "Yeah, dog. It's been fun, but now let's really mess some stuff up." "You got it." We shared one last fist bump, possibly our last, which isn't likely considering how much more is left of this, and I lit the second last fire grenade spear at the thicket of drones, setting them all on fire. "Eat that," I screamed as we both unloaded our guns on the flaming monsters, shooting at everything that moved or was on fire. I reloaded, killed, and repeated the cycle until I ran out of ammo on the shotgun that I was using, and pulled off the other one that I had strapped to the back. The drones all throughout the school must have heard the gunshots because a million claws began scraping against the basement door, trying to get inside to get to us. Through all of the chaos, I spotted a very large hole in the middle of the basement, which must have been the entrance to the underground cave that Marlo had talked about. Blame and I jumped in the hole and walked down the tunnel connecting to it, which looked ancient. There was zero light down there, so we had to make do with our headlamps and flashlights attached to our gun barrels. There were, strangely enough, hieroglyphics not made by human hands on the cave walls, depicting the same Leviathan creatures that we had seen in the other hieroglyphics and drawings. "What the heck?" I whispered. The tunnel going in one direction, which got wider as we got deeper the farther we went, opened up into a small room. And in that room I heard something whisper in an unhuman voice. And then I heard the sound of legs skittering, and I turned to check out the noise. The creature which was in the room had a main body, about 2 meters in diameter, and it resembled the round shell of a crab. But instead of a bright red, the shell was colored a dark and slimy gray. On the front and lower part of the shell there was a hinged and snappy mouth, filled with sharp and translucent teeth. The monster had 10 long spider-like legs coming out of the sides of its lower carapace, all jointed and spindly. A dozen thin and powerful tentacles came out from directly under the monster, gray in coloration. "Holy crap, dog," Blame said. "What is that?" "I don't know, just shoot it," I replied. Blame yelled, "Suck this," and he rapidly fired 3 shots from his shotgun, directly hitting the monster. But what made this monster scary wasn't the fact that it looked like a Lovecraftian crab. It was that all the Blame shots did nothing to it. "Uh-oh," I said. The monster screeched and swung out with one of its legs, and I ducked, counter-attacking it with the stock of my shotgun. I slid directly under the monster and fired a shot right under its carapace, hoping that it was the creature's weak spot. Not surprisingly, it didn't do anything. The monster picked me up from the ground and brought me right up to its tooth-filled face. Suddenly, the monster screeched in pain and dropped me, and I saw that Blame had sliced one of its legs off, which were apparently much less durable than the rest of the creature. "It's the legs, player," he yelled. "Cut the legs off." I pulled out the Bowie knife sheathed in my belt and sliced one of the creature's legs off, and continued doing so until the creature was nothing more than a screeching torso with multiple leg stumps. Blame with the 50 cal stuck the gun right against the creature's head, and I covered my ears. And he fired, completely obliterating the monster. "You good, dog?" Blame asked. "Yeah, man," I said. "It's crazy we're still alive, right?" I reloaded my shotgun. "You ready for more of this?" "Heck yeah." Suddenly, somebody grabbed me from the back and pressed a knife against my throat. "Oh no, a knife against my throat," I said sarcastically. I turned my head an inch and saw that it was Ryan, who had somehow survived the bullet wounds. He opened his jacket, revealing that there was a math textbook under the jacket, which had caught and stopped all of the 9mm bullets, which meant that he had faked dying. Blame loaded his shotgun and pointed it at Ryan's face, something that I swore that I had seen somewhere before. "Get away from him, dog," Blame said. "Move one more step and I slit his throat," Ryan sharply replied. I was slowly reaching for my gun with my right hand, trying to shoot Ryan where he wasn't wearing math textbook armor. "You ain't killing the Great Queen and you ain't getting out of here alive." "Who says we aren't?" I asked, feeling the cold blade of the knife against my throat. Just before I reached the gun, Ryan caught on to what I was doing and swatted my hand away from the holster. "I am," he replied. "You two have been making my life miserable before this even happened, and now it's my chance to get payback, to sacrifice you to the Great One." "Stop speaking like that," Blame said. "I can't understand your mumble-jumble BS." "Now," I said, "drop the knife." In a sudden flash of movement, I elbowed Ryan in the stomach and kicked him against the cave wall, but that guy was fast. Just before Blame could aim and fire, Ryan had gotten up and ran, punching me in the face. He screamed psychopathically and leapt right for my face with his knife positioned in the classic slasher film way. But Blame shot him clean through the back where the math book armor wasn't there. For the last time, Ryan fell on the floor flat through his face and managed one, "Screw you," and he died. "Is he actually dead this time?" Blame asked. I checked for his pulse and thankfully there wasn't one. We continued down the tunnel to the point where we were at least 100 feet beneath the earth, and we suddenly came into an open room in the cave system, at least twice the size of the gym. We could audibly hear water splashing around, so I assumed there was an underground lake of some kind where the drones were. Before we could really get a look at the area and what was in it, our headlamps turned off, bathing us in the pitch black darkness. What the heck?" I cried out. It was silent for a few minutes. "What the heck is this, dog?" Blame yelled. "Hey, come out and fight, you baby." But then there was a voice. "Brian Lockhart, Christopher Roger." The voice was eerie and terrifying, like a demon's voice. A woman's voice, a child's voice, and a man's voice all mixed into one. It all sounded ancient, as if it was alive before the start of time, and it knew our names. "How does it feel to have let all those people die?" "Well, I know it's gonna feel great to blow your face off," Blame yelled. The drone queen or king or whatever you wanted to call it let out a deep laugh and roared, "I will enjoy the taste of your blood. You little bugs have been disgraced for too long, and you will pay the price." And then the voice switched to the voice of Marlowe. "Christopher, why are you here? This is a fight you can't win. You're gonna die and your guts will get splattered onto the walls. Your body will be feasted on. You can't win. There are things that you will never find out, things that you will never understand, things you will never see. I am one of them. You made a mistake thinking that you could destroy me, the queen and the king." "Oh really?" I laughed right back at the thing, but my heart was beating so fast that it would make Usain Bolt look out of shape. "Really? You're an incomprehensible eldritch horror, aren't you? It only took a bunch of kids and a principal to figure you and your stuff out." "Silence. Nobody will find your corpse. You and Brian will remain here for the rest of eternity, and no one will ever know how you died down here where you will never escape." "Oh, is that so? Then show yourself." I distinctly heard the flick of a lighter, followed by a ring of torches all around the cave walls light up, illuminating the dark room. I saw Lauren standing close to the exit, grinning at us as if to say, "You meddling kids are so done now." The drone queen was sitting in a very large underground lake, and rising from the water and stood on a large rock structure which was like some kind of throne. The drone queen was absolutely enormous, at least 20 feet tall and 40 feet long, and he or she was scary looking too. The queen's general body looked roughly the same as the rest of the drones, but with curved spikes on its back, and two backward bending arms that ended with claws, each one bigger than me. The queen had a large, armored crown-like carapace on its head, into which it was able to withdraw its face and mouth as a means of protection, similar to how a turtle could withdraw its head into its shell. This great carapace was of a disproportionate size when compared to the rest of the queen's very large body, and it was black in color. This big thing had 3 smaller arms beneath its 2 primary arms, all of them clawed with 7 long fingers. The monster had a crown of thick tentacles and tendrils acting as legs, as well as a dozen tendrils tipped with a sharp and bony point, acting as a weapon. The queen also had a large, thick, and rigid tail that ended in 3 more points and looked deadly. This creature looked ancient yet deadly, with black, rigid skin, and at least 50 warrior drones surrounding her like royal guards. Time for you to die, the Queen roared. No way, I screamed, just as the Queen began to charge. Holding it out for her to see, I held the bomb with my lighter an inch away from the flare, which would ignite and blow the whole place up. Move one step closer and we all go out and explode. Smooth, Blaine muttered. The Queen stopped, thawed, and stayed right where she was. This mere attempt will not stop me from shedding your blood. In the tense silence without warning, a drone suddenly grabbed Blaine and pulled him back. I fired my pistol, killing it, which set off a chain of events. The drone queen suddenly charged, and the earth shaking and the bomb rolled away from me. Blame, I screamed. The 50. Blame got to his feet and grabbed the sniper, firing a shot at the queen's head. He fired, and reloaded until the entire 50 caliber magazine had run out. I picked up my shotgun and started slam firing into the wave of warrior drones heading our way, and I threw a Molotov cocktail in their direction. We both, back to back, emptied all of our magazines into the approaching threats, dropping multiple drones at a time, sending bullets everywhere. No, the Queen yelled, and without warning, the Queen suddenly rushed forward and grabbed me by the shirt collar, lifting me up. Before the Queen did, I managed to snag the biggest bomb in my lighter, hugging him tightly to my chest. Prepare to die. Hey, I yelled, grinning, and then I yelled, get down, to Blame, and I looked back at the Queen, who was raising me feet above her enormous, tooth-filled maw. This was it. After a whole week of being trapped inside this godforsaken school hunted by these drones, I was ending it. I grinned just before the Queen dropped me into the water. You better pick a god and start praying. In one swift motion, I quickly lit the flare attached to the bomb and dropped it down the Queen's throat, and she released me screeching, and I fell into the underground lake below. I tried to swim to the bottom, but then I heard through the water a deafening boom, and the room shook, as every drone in the area was immediately destroyed, and parts of the Queen's body flew everywhere. I swam to the surface and walked on shore where Blame was, taking cover behind a rock. He was unconscious, hit by a rock but barely bleeding and still breathing. I yelled out, "We won!" and I passed out right on the ground. I came to when I heard the voices of two men talking. I was expecting soldiers, FBI agents, the National Guard, anyone besides who I saw. It was who I could have never expected to see, especially in these circumstances that we were in. My Uncle Roger. He was with a man who was nearly 7 feet tall and looked like he punched trees and drove tanks for fun. The man was wearing a military plate carrier and combat boots, though he clearly wasn't a soldier. Roger was holding an M4 shotgun while the other man was holding an M16 in his hands. "Uncle Roger?" I exclaimed as Blame slowly got to his feet. How are you here?" "Dog, is this your uncle?" Blame asked. I briefly saw Lawrence, who had apparently survived the explosion. "Hey dude, holy crap, you okay?" Roger asked. "It looks like something crashed into here." "I guess," I said, clearly not being okay. "Who's your friend?" The man tipped his fedora at me. "Name's Zach." "What are you doing here? How did you know about this?" "Well, I guess I hunt monsters now." Uncle Roger laughed, patting me on the back and leading us back out. I seriously took what he said into consideration. We went out into the parking lot where Roger and Zach had led Marlo and our class, who they had freed and questioned. The parking lot was full of worried parents and officers and ambulances. There were a bunch of men in suits asking questions, just like the cliches, who were friends of Zach. When I saw Marlo, I ran up to him and I hugged him. "Holy crap, kid, I heard the explosion from out here. What happened?" Well, Blame and I walked down there and killed everything and had an epic final battle with the Queen. I ended up putting the bomb you made down its throat and blowing it up. Marlo looked like he didn't believe me, but there was too much evidence, and after talking with my principal, who was now having a lengthy conversation with Zach, I reunited with the Algoma extermination team. "Holy crap!" Armin yelled once he saw me. "They're alive." We all had one big group hug and a bunch of handshakes, and we bid each other farewell, at least for now, until a 1-month deep cleaning and cave sealing could happen. I walked up to Blame. "We really did that, man." "Heck yeah." And Blame and I did our signature handshake. "So what are you gonna do now?" "I don't know, dog. I'm a monster hunter now, and with great power comes great big booty girls." My dad Michael then drove and parked into the driveway, and I had another well-needed reunion. My dad and Uncle Roger ended up having a lengthy conversation as to why Roger was sitting in a school parking lot with a shotgun. I got in my dad's car and I lied down in the back seat, and I heard Zach say, "Lawrence was just seen heading back to Oregon in a Mercedes. Let's roll. This might turn into a car chase if we don't make the plane back home." I wondered what that meant. Roger walked up to the car and said, "Hey bud, by the way, the monsters in the school are a colony species of semi-humanoid creatures originating from the eastern Pacific Ocean. They can get up to 16 feet long, and I killed one a few weeks back and dragged its body to my backyard. Catch you later, dude." I stared at him with my jaw dropped. A few weeks later, I was at my house waiting for the school to reopen, and I had received a call from my Uncle Roger. "Hey kid," he said, "I'm just wondering, how would you like to go on a Navy battleship for a few weeks, maybe a month? By the way, have you ever heard of something called Claw to Gothic Q?" Holy crap. This isn't the end.